The Kathara Healing Book. An advanced spiritual healing certificate program based upon Keylontic morphogenetic science. This book is intended for those who are interested in getting to know the finer details of Kathara healing, who are interested in the theoretical and practical aspects of creation, and who aspire to become professional Kathara healers. Throughout the book, all of Kathara healing's techniques are presented. Introduction. Bioregenesis technologies are tools to assist us in accelerating our expansion of consciousness through natural, gentle stimulation of the personal DNA template, Kundalini energies, chakras, and Merkaba vehicle. Bioregenesis techniques are built upon the foundations of Keylontic morphogenetic science and advanced scalar mechanics, as understood by races of higher evolution. These are paradigms of science not yet recognized or validated by contemporary Earth science paradigms. Because bioregenesis technologies are based upon what is viewed by modern Earth science paradigms as a speculative, rather than verifiable science, we present bioregenesis techniques only as an option to explore in meditation. Bioregenesis technologies were taught as common knowledge within the ascension schools of pre-ancient advanced human cultures and were utilized as standard practice in pre-ancient time periods. Bioregenesis technologies are built upon the natural laws of scalar wave mechanics. Bioregenesis techniques are specific applications of conscious energy direction within the manifestation template of the body that stimulate into activity dormant portions of the personal manifestation template, which allows for a natural, progressive and accelerated advancement of the personal organic evolutionary blueprint of the 12th dimensional omnipolar pre-matter template. Bioregenesis techniques simultaneously create subtle, natural acceleration within the interwoven energy systems of the DNA template, chakra system, Merkaba fields, Kundalini energies, higher dimensional consciousness and subtle energy body anatomy. In the bioregenesis paradigm, it is said that such techniques allow an individual to affect the function of the scalar wave template of the body, working co-creatively under the direction of the individual's own higher dimensional levels of consciousness. As the higher dimensional levels of personal identity, the spiritual identity of the soul, govern the process of the personal manifestation template, bioregenesis technologies are completely safe and natural to the organic design of the human being. Using processes of bioregenesis from the earthly conscious perspective expedites the natural processes of energy and consciousness by which the higher identity and earthly identity integrate to become one. In advanced ancient human cultures, bioregenesis technologies represented a natural attribute of consciousness expansion into the realms of higher evolution and assisted to biologically prepare humans for stargate passage or ascension. If we can understand that the human mind is an energy force that continually generates patterns of scalar waves through the process of thought, it is not difficult to understand how appropriately directed thought can directly influence the function of the personal manifestation template scalar blueprint. All thoughts serve this purpose, and directly affect the observable state of the mind-body-spirit system and the manifestation of events within the external life drama. Thoughts are things, scalar wave configurations of multidimensional vibrating patterns of bipolar electromagnetic energy radiation, which form specific patterns of scalar frequency within the personal manifestation template. Undirected thought creates chaotic patterns within the manifestation template, while thought directed through clear intention creates ordered patterns within the manifestation template. Thought directed with clear intention and knowledge of the structure of subtle body anatomy is a very potent form of scalar power. The patterns of scalar energy frequency that thought projects into the personal manifestation template serve as electromagnetic operational instructions within the template, directly affecting the conditions that will be met in manifest experience. To develop skill in the manifestation process, the conscious intending mind must become more familiar with the language of scalar waves, as this is the language of light and sound upon which the manifestation template operates. The language of scalar waves is spoken through the forms of specific wave spectra, forms that appear to the conscious three-dimensional mind as frequencies of sound, spectra of light or color, and shapes or symbols. What we perceive as color is specific spectra of light radiation waves that have a specific measurable wavelength and vibrational energy signature. In using the conscious mind to direct quantities of color, we are consciously selecting specific scalar frequencies to add to the manifestation template. When we use the conscious mind to create images of symbols, we are further specifying the arrangement of specific frequencies as they appear within the manifestation template. Symbol forms, even those that compose the alphabets of outer languages, represent scalar waveguides and directly affect the contours of the scalar wave blueprint of the manifestation template. The manifestation template governs the function of the body and consciousness within the manifest experience, and so the language of scalar waves is the medium through which we gain conscious access to the causal level of manifestation. In using color and symbol to direct frequency, we are creating a pattern of energy that has a specific vibrational signature or tonal sound signature, which directly interfaces with the energetic vibrational sound signature of the manifestation template's scalar grid. In bioregenesis technology, color and symbol are used to direct the tonal scalar arrangements of the manifestation template to create natural, desired results within the body-mind-spirit system. There are many complexities within the process of conscious manifestation that one must learn to fully master the contours of space, time, and matter. The beginning step is learning to give more finely tuned thought-intention programming instructions to the personal manifestation template. Thoughts and images rendered in external language and three-dimensionally associated symbols affect the other layers of the manifestation template, but they do not provide as finely tuned manifestation instructions as do the scalar wave languages of color and symbol image, which direct the contours of vibrational patterns of sound. Mastery within the interdimensional spectrum progressively develops as one masters the core programming languages of color, symbol, and sound vibration. In mind technologies, such as creative visualization and verbal affirmation, beginning skill in scalar template programming is developed through using emotionally charged images and precise sound patterns in the language to which we are accustomed, as methods to begin gaining conscious control over the processes of personal manifestation. Helontic science bioregenesis. Technologies take us one step deeper into the manifestation process, by directly employing the language of scalar waves and directing the encoded instructions through precise locations within the body-mind-spirit system and the manifestation template upon which this system is built. Bioregenesis technologies take us from speaking the language of the three-dimensional mind into speaking the intrinsic scalar wave language of the spirit, which is the causal element behind and within all manifestation. Bioregenesis technologies represent applications of scalar mechanics that utilize the inherent power of subtle wave forms to create desired change within the core manifestation template of the body. Within the process, color and symbol become the tools through which the three-dimensionally conscious mind becomes empowered to participate in conscious co-creation with the soul and higher dimensional spiritual portions of identify. Color and symbol possess power as mathematically encoded directors of scalar frequency. The ultimate effect of this directed power is the ability to affect the scalar arrangements of the manifestation template. Intrinsically, scalar waves are specific points of vibrating bipolar energy signatures. Vibration of energy units creates patterns of internal and external sound, within and beyond the range of three-dimensional detection. The manifestation template can be conceptualized as an interwoven fabric of sound frequency, the silent symphony of personal and universal being. The tools of color and symbol affect the scalar wave arrangement of the manifestation template, and thus alter the vibrational patterns of sound tones within the personal blueprint. Color and symbol are tools for the direction of sound, and intentional application of specific sound tones can also be used in conjunction with color and symbol, to further amplify one's power to interact with the manifestation template. Along with the techniques of color and symbol direction, toning, or the intentional generation of specific sounds to affect the manifestation template, is also utilized in bioregenesis technologies and spiritual expansion programs. Toning therapies have emerged in recent years through the New Age and holistic healing paradigms, and have been applied for thousands of years within the practices of spiritual masters in every religious tradition. Spoken language itself is a form of toning, with its accompanying symbol alphabet and, like all symbols and sound tones, our languages directly affect the personal manifestation template and the level of consciousness that can manifest through the body. In ancient cultures, the powers of language were better understood than they presently are in contemporary mainstream society. Particularly within the priest castes of ancient religions, language was used more consciously, with an understanding that words, sounds and images would directly affect the consciousness of the masses. Prayers, rituals and songs, some of which remain in use today, were used as a means of altering consciousness. Some assisted in spiritual development, others were intentionally used to limit and control the consciousness of populations. The contemporary earth science paradigm is only beginning to explore the power of sound vibration, and the connection between sound, symbol and color is not yet recognized or understood. In advanced pre-ancient cultures, these sciences of scalar mechanics were fully understood and utilized in the most powerful of ways. Color symbol sound technologies were not only used in bioregenesis applications for personal health and consciousness expansion, they were also used among groups of people to directly interface with the scalar wave manifestation template of the planetary shields. Vortices, time portals, stargates, ley lines and free energy systems generated through the planetary core and solar light emanations were all directed through the focused mind, utilizing knowledge of color symbol sound scalar mechanics. Since the fall of ancient cultures, which came as a result of abusing the powers of these scalar technologies, the color symbol sound sequences once used to direct massive amounts of power became the hidden and forbidden sacred knowledge. The colors, symbols and sounds used in bioregenesis techniques are not simply random choices. The elements of bioregenesis techniques are drawn from a universal standard language of scalar speak, through which precise scalar frequencies are generated through specific color symbol sound sequences to create very specific effects within the manifestation templates. The bioregenesis techniques presently offered represent only the beginning of our reawakening to this vast body of sacred science knowledge. Many bioregenesis techniques utilizing color symbol sequence scalar mechanics are accompanied by a corresponding exercise in toning. Within the mystical ascension schools of ancient and pre-ancient times, there existed a very sacred series of toning sequences that were used to directly interface with the DNA template and the axiom lines in the planetary shield. On a personal level, through this specific series of toning, dormant strands in the DNA template could be progressively brought into activation, to expedite the process of spiritual actualization, holistic healing and building of the personal Merkaba vehicle within the bioenergetic field. On the planetary level, these sacred toning sequences were used to energetically open the planetary axiom lines for clearing, reprogramming, and accelerating the activation of the planetary shields. This series of sacred toning was collectively called the music of the spheres. The songs of the spheres. The music of the spheres represents the organic tonal sequences of each dimensional frequency band within the 15-dimensional time matrix, the consolidated core vibrational sound signatures of each dimensional frequency band. Of the 15 core vibrational signatures of the 15 dimensions in a time matrix, 12 of these core signatures serve as the primary 12 tonal sequences upon which each strand of the 12-strand original human DNA template and each axiom line in the 4-density planetary shields are structured. In using the tone sequences of the music of the spheres, the 12-strand DNA template can be progressively brought into natural activation. Scalar wave distortions within the templates for the DNA strands, which physically manifest as genetic distortions, can be systematically realigned with their natural perfect 12th-dimensional organic imprint. In using the music of the spheres for work with the planetary shields, each of the 24 axiom lines can be opened and encoded with the perfect pattern of the planetary plasma beam, transmitting the 12th dimensional Maharic shield pattern directly into the axiom line. In the planetary shields is the most rapid method to distribute the program of the planetary organic imprint throughout the 4 density levels of the planetary shields. In ancient days, the music of the spheres was used extensively for purposes of self-generated healing and to prepare the physical body for literal passage through the planetary stargates, also known as ascension. The specific tone sequences for each singular dimension, which corresponded to one DNA strand template in the 12-strand blueprint and the inherent dimension of consciousness that would embody through activation of the strand, are called the songs of the spheres. Each song contained very specific word sounds, from the first universal spoken language, for lyrics, and specific multi-layered tones, which generated inaudible tritone standing waves, for melody, harmony, and overtones. To be effective, the songs had to be used through the human voice, externally or mentally as the singing of songs. The sacred songs were sung in combination with directing specific corresponding color and symbol sequences through the bioenergetic field, or through the planetary axiom lines for planetary shield work. The songs served to open specific areas of the DNA template, or specific planetary axiom lines, to receive instructions directed by the color and symbol sequences. The tones of the songs generated specific scalar wave formations that triggered activation of corresponding configurations within the DNA template and planetary shields. Activation of dormant portions of the DNA strand templates for planetary axiom lines opened the strand template of planetary shield to directly receive color symbol scalar wave instructions, through which desired outcomes within the personal or planetary body, and within the external reality experience, could be programmed for manifestation. The science of the music of the spheres was one of the most highly guarded sacred secrets in pre-ancient cultures, due to the power of interdimensional freedom and conscious manifestation that could be obtained through knowledgeable use of the songs. Before the songs of the spheres will be fully retuned to human awareness, our culture will have to mature enough to demonstrate spiritually motivated ethical use of power. Certain songs are now being slowly returned, so that we may assist those of higher evolution to realign Earth's planetary shield with its original 12th-dimensional Maharic shield organic imprint. One of the 15 songs of the spheres was provided to us by the Emerald Order. This song is used to activate dormant scalar waves in the 8th DNA strand template, through which the process of activating the dormant 1th to 8th strands of the 12-strand DNA template can be accelerated, expediting the natural processes of higher dimensional spiritual identity integration. This song is also used to open the 8th axiom line in Gaia's planetary shield, to facilitate realignment of Earth's planetary shield. From Etheric Matter Density 3. This song was given so that groups can begin assisting directly in planetary grid work, opening specific axiom lines and vortices in the planetary body to help bring Earth's planetary shield manifestation template into its organic alignment and balance. The song that was given is called the Rea cum Nara. The English language translation is the Song of Orion. This song of the 8th sphere corresponds to the 8th dimensional level of the universal Kathara grid and its 8th primary stargate. It also corresponds to the 8th planetary axiom line within the etheric matter density 3 Gaian planetary shield and to the 8th DNA strand template in the human body. The 8th dimensional stargate within the universal Kathara grid is the stargate that opens into the Orion star system. Thus the name of the song of the 8th sphere is the Song of Orion. Soon the songs that correspond to the 11th and 12th dimensional frequencies will be provided. Aside from its use in planetary grid work, when used as a mantra, repeatedly sung as a focus for the mind in meditation, the Rea cum Nara serves to stimulate consciousness expansion into the higher dimensional fields and amplifies and expedites the effects of personal bioregenesis techniques. Attitudes and responsibilities of mastery. Part of the process of spiritual integration of our higher selves or expansion of our consciousness involves reprogramming the way we think. Our thoughts create our reality and the life experience we have on the inside and the outside of us. The following attitudes and responsibilities, when embodied and lived, will help to change our thought patterns, thoughts that we simply take for granted because they are part of the programming we currently carry. Changing the thought patterns is actually changing the programming in the personal template. 12 Attitudes of Mastery. Study the 12 attitudes of mastery, make an affirmation meditation out of them, and try to make them your way of life. 1. Love. Recognition of the truth of the all-oneness. 2. Grace. Allowing the all-oneness to be what it is regardless of whether it suits you. Living perpetual forgiveness. 3. Gratitude. Appreciating the all-oneness, knowing your aliveness. 4. Reverent respect. Acknowledging and giving to the all-oneness. 5. Responsibility. Co-creating with, serving and being able to respond to the all-oneness. 6. Trust, knowing the power and love of the all-oneness. 7. Accountability. Being in a state of truth with the all-oneness. 6. Impeccability. Upholding and protecting the all-oneness. 9. Mindfulness. Loving, nurturing, and being attentive to the all-oneness. 10. Fearlessness. Recognizing the eternal infinite nature and unconditional love of the all-oneness. 11. Engaged detachment. Permitting the all-oneness to be without assigning critique, condemnation, or value judgment, understanding the isness of and validating the all-oneness. 12. Joy. Choosing to be the embodied all-oneness. 12 Responsibilities of Mastery. Study the 12 responsibilities of mastery, make an affirmation meditation out of them, and try to make them your way of life. 1. Self-actualization. Freedom from the victim-victimizer blame game and willingness to be accountable for all perceivable manifestations as direct projections of intended learning from the personal consciousness, also known as DNA template. 2. Self-sovereignty. Freedom from the need for approval from, or the need to rebel against any form of external authority through understanding that you, as a manifestation of the God Spirit, have the ability to create personal freedom without violating the spiritual rights of others and without allowing others to violate your spiritual rights of being. 3. Self-containment. Taking personal responsibility for, and realizing that at all times, you are accountable for directing personal energies. There is no one or no thing that upsets you and thus justifies or validates any personal spiritual misuse of reaction, idea, intention, or action. It is you who upsets yourself by allowing the emotional body to follow misperceptions of the menial body that tell you that your power lies outside of yourself. At any given moment, you can choose which words, associations, and ideas you will use as the fillers through which you interpret an event. Upset, mad, hurt, or any other category of labeling, conscious or subconscious, are all mental body filters that direct emotional and physical body function. The self-contained individual recognizes that, at all times, the freedom of interpretation exists, and thus a negative experience and its associated disharmonic energies of upset feelings can only exist as a personal interpretation of events. Accepting any less responsibility for the direction of personal energies will place you directly into the victim-victimizer blame game, which can only take place among people who are placing their personal power and responsibility for manifestation onto externalized sources. Only you have the power to upset yourself. Regardless of what others say or do, you are fully entitled to your own interpretation. No one or thing has the power to upset you unless you give this power away. Self-containment comes when one recognizes that the direction of personal energies, whether physical, emotional, mental, which means ideas, beliefs, labels, interpretations, conscious or subconscious, is an attainable level of personal mastery and exists as an implied responsibility that comes with the gift of free will choice. The more responsible you become, the greater freedom and personal empowerment you will know. 4. Self-discipline. Accepting responsibility for directing personal energies toward, rather than in opposition to, the outcomes you desire to experience. The physical, mental, and emotional bodies have long been directed by the subconscious forces of the hidden shadow, creating within us urges, reactions, thoughts, impulses, perceptions, and feelings that often work counter to the life creations we desire to manifest. Part of spiritual mastery entails teaching ourselves to be consciously diligent in observing our own minds, emotions, and physical body talk, so that we may employ conscious redirection of subconscious shadow energies that run on autopilot. If we learn to catch ourselves when negative thought patterns or emotions run through us, we can use that moment of recognition to reclaim this errant energy and consciously use the power of affirmative attitude, remedial word choice, and direct energy redirection to direct opposing energies of the self into fulfillment of desired constructive, spiritually mature creations. It lacks self-discipline to become the lion tamer of the often roaring subconscious mind, but we do have the intrinsic power to help our subconscious shadow to evolve through loving but firm redirection into a cuddly lap cat that will gladly join us in our constructive co-creations. Self-discipline emerges when we consistently remind ourselves to employ the spiritually correct thought, action, or attitude, even if we don't feel like it when the shadow sneaks up from down under. The shadow parts of self surface so that we may see these parts of self come to the conscious mind for healing. Through this process, the conscious mind itself can learn greater attributes of mastery. 5. Self-love. Self-love. It is our own responsibility to love and nurture ourselves through the limitless gift of divine spirit that moves through us at every moment. Genuine love must come from within and can only be gained through genuine spiritual connection to the eternal God Self and its inherent connection to all creation. If we seek love on the outside in order to fulfill a personal loneliness or lack within, we enter relationships as energy vampires. In doing this, we are seeking a substitute for our personal God Source connection through tapping into the God Source embodied within other people or beings. This is not love. It is need. This implies the lack of something essential, which in turn implies a limited personal connection to God Source universal consciousness. Such lack cannot be filled by external love, it can only be filled by recognizing the God within you, and thus recognizing that you are a living embodiment of absolute love. Once this is recognized, you will have the greatest love of all, God love. And from this position of divine power, you can go into the world seeking those to whom you can give this love, rather than seeking those from whom you can get love. When love is approached through self-love, the motivation is to give joyfully, knowing that anything you might need can be made manifest through the love of the active God Source that you carry inside yourself. Self-love is a responsibility of spiritual maturity. 6. Spiritual integrity. It is our absolute responsibility to choose to act with spiritual integrity at all times. There is no excuse to knowingly violate the spiritual rights of others, regardless of how poorly they may react to you. Spiritual integrity requires that we begin to look at what we are really doing in the way we live our lives. Do our eating habits violate the plant, animal, or earth kingdoms? Do our choices of words and actions show respect for other people and other life forms? Do we play the survival of the fittest lack game to give ourselves an excuse for unethical behaviors in money matters, such as showing our silent rebellion against the government by trying to cheat on taxes, or by showing up a fellow employee at Woo to prove you are more worthy and thus more entitled to favor? Do you tell people what they want to hear in order to gain their approval and support, even if it is not fully true and does not reflect your personal needs or feelings? Do you try to get others to do your share as far as work or responsibilities? Do you use erroneous excuses such as race, gender, creed, academic or economic status to justify disrespectful, exploitative, or unkind treatment of others? Spiritual integrity requires that we take a good, hard, frequent look at how we conduct our lives, to face the areas of activity in which we are performing in less than spiritually congruent ways and to employ active commitment and discipline to bring these areas of our lives into spiritual integrity. One does not get through the gates of heaven, or anywhere else desirable, through using excuses excuses for not employing genuine, not feigned, spiritual integrity. Cultivating spiritual integrity is a major responsibility on the path of spiritual mastery and, the way the universe works, you can't leave home without it. This means that there is a biological reality of spiritual integrity that manifests chemically within the DNA as a result of that state and focus of consciousness. If you do not possess a sufficient amount of spiritual integrity in your consciousness, neither will your DNA template. And though you might be able to pull the wool over the eyes of others, your own biology will eventually be your own taskmaster. Passage through any stargate requires a sufficient amount of chemically encoded spiritual integrity of consciousness. 7. Appreciation. Our present society continually teaches us to want more, need more, be more, do more, etc. We are constantly influenced to perceive what is lacking in order to motivate us to buy more, work more, pay more taxes, and be good little consumer sheep. Very rarely do we stop to think about all that we do have, beginning with the gift of life and mental free will choice. Through this disoriented perceptual filter, we can cultivate a full-blown mutation of mental consciousness. In this mutated consciousness, we begin to believe that we are entitled, that someone owes us, God, the universe, our parents, spouse, children, employer, government, etc. Once we fall into this you owe me mind trap, we set ourselves up for continuing self-created frustration, as we place unrealistic and untrue expectations upon life, others, and ourselves. We can also often get mighty angry or hurt when we find the universe doesn't conform to our imagined pictures. No one owes us anything. If we feel we are owed, then we are entertaining lack consciousness and a void within the self is being recognized. If we give to another in order to receive for ourselves, such as do banks, and often parents, spouses or lovers, and the other does not pay back what we expected to receive, we may feel cheated, taken advantage or owed. Perhaps these situations emerge in our lives as lessons to teach us that giving should be done for the giving alone, and not for the expected return. If we give what we desire to give, for the joy of giving, we do not feel owed. If we live for the joy of living, without forcing our demands or expectations upon life, we will not feel that life has shortchanged us. It matters not what your neighbor possesses, because in comparing ourselves to each other to see how we measure up to each other, we are, in effect, continually being distracted from seeing and utilizing the blessings that are our own. If we can work to cultivate the ability to appreciate even the smallest of gifts, blessings and gestures, we will begin to create a life that is at least half full instead of half empty. In terms of universal physics, what you focus your attention upon expands, what you resist persists, and what you do not give the energy of appreciation to will eventually demanifest right out of your experience. When you approach the world through the chosen filler of genuine giving, you are, in effect, being an electrical transmitter, sending energy out to the world around you. When you release electrical energy in this way, you become more magnetic, as the sending out of energy creates magnetic vortices within the diotic grid of your kathara anatomy. The magnetized diotic points then draw in more universal energy supply, at a higher frequency and quality than the expressed energy, to refill the energy void created by the giving. When you approach the world with the attitude of getting, this natural physics process becomes inverted. The more you try to pull energy from the outside world, the more your energy becomes stuck in the diotic grid as miasms. The miasms progressively reduce the quantity and lower the frequency of the natural energies you can internally draw from the universal supply. Giving, even in its simplest form of giving appreciation, keeps the natural energy flow moving. Whatever you give out will return to you amplified. This also works in reverse, however, and giving out a bad attitude of ego, arrogance, and garbage will cause more of the same to flow your way. Appreciate what you have. Love it, find perspectives through which the joy of it can be known, and know that in the act of genuine appreciation itself, you will set loose the powers of manifesting more of what you desire and less of the illusion of lack. The Universe Owes Me Mind Trip is one of the most powerful self-sabotage games in the world. Trade it in for consistent appreciation and your world will progressively expand to hold the reality of the things you most desire. If you feel put upon by the world and resentful for having your desires unmet, you owe yourself something. You also owe yourself a greater understanding of the nature of creation and better use of your personal power within the life creation game. Say thank you to the God Source more often, to help yourself remember what things you have to appreciate, and many more of the kind will be sent along your way. 8. Patience. God Source has its own schedule. We can either acknowledge this intrinsic reality of manifestation and choose to work co-creatively with the God Source within, trusting that together you and the universe will create the perfect divine right timing, and if that isn't right now, there is a very good reason for this, or you can let the ego self try to force its will upon the intrinsic nature of time. If time does not cooperate with your expectations, you can let that be okay, and trust in divine right timing, or you can progressively frustrate yourself with attachment to the artificial time of clocks, and choose to believe that you cannot have what you desire just because it does not appear when you demand. If we learn to relax, and realize that most things we desire we can indeed achieve in divine right time and order, we can learn to co-create with the consciousness of time. We will often then find that our lives will progressively conform to our wishes, especially when we ask nicely rather than demand, and also when we trust the universal God Source to do its part in our co-creation. Patience is a virtue that reflects our comprehension of the nature of universal order. 9. Kindness. Like respect, kindness is a birthright, but one that is quite often overlooked and misunderstood. When we approach the world through genuine kind-heartedness, sending love and respect to all of creation in honor of the God Force that lives within all things, we are, again, transmitting electrical energy of a higher frequency that will follow the mechanics of universal physics to bring more of like-kind back to us through universal backflow. Kindness is a gift we must first give to ourselves in order to have it to give to others. Kindness implies being conscientious, concerned and caring toward the needs, feelings and desires of both the self and others, and to express this concern and caring in action, attitude and intention. Give to yourself random acts of kindness, then pass along the gift to all who cross your way. Try being kind to the mean and grouchy neighbor and you may help them rediscover the ability to smile. When we treat all things with kindness, we demonstrate that we acknowledge their intrinsic value as manifestations of God Source, and you will often find God Source lovingly returns the favor. 10. Conservation. Conservation is a form to respect and appreciation for God Source energy in all to its expressions, from conserving and protecting our natural resources, to being attentive to the needs of our bodies, to using the energies of our words and actions with gentle conservation by which we freely use what is needed, but not more. God Source continually recycles its energies for the rebirth of new expression. All is given freely, but nothing is valueless or wasted. Conservation demonstrates that we have respect and appreciation for the gift of creative energy that God Source has provided to us. As we learn to use this energy, in all its forms, with respect and clear intention, we will progressively fine-tune our ability to create what we desire and, in this process, assist all other beings to do the same. There is truth in the old saying, waste not, want not. If everything we perceive in our hologram of life is understood to be manifestations of God Source, we might all employ a bit more respect, appreciation and conservation toward the use and applications of the energies of the divine. 11. Cooperation and diplomacy. Existence is and will always be a co-creative endeavor. We must be willing to allow other beings the fulfillment of their needs and desires if we hope to have our fulfillment known. Creating win-win situations and creating with the intention of giving genuinely are natural ways of being. We might not always agree with the intended creations of others, but we all have a right to our points of view. Diplomacy can be a bridge between forces of opposition, through which effective actions or decisions can be reached to mutually support each perspective. We can learn to agree to disagree respectfully, so the spiritual art of cooperative co-creation can progressively evolve to higher levels of expression. 12. Sense. Learning to identify and appropriately apply both common sense and the uncommon sense of spiritual knowing will allow us to establish the greatest balance of energy expression within all aspects of our lives. Chapter 1. The structure of the unified field and the context of healing. If one is to become fluent in the art and science of bio-spiritual healing facilitation, it is necessary to become familiar with the primary structures of energy within which existence takes place. Without this understanding, one will be unable to identify the true nature of systems and their intrinsic functions. If we do not understand the intrinsic order of a system and the elements that make up its parts, our ability to comprehend the organic functions of the system will be limited. Without comprehension of the intrinsic dynamics inherent to a system, our perceptions will be limited to observing the effects of systems function, rather than perceiving the causal elements behind and within the apparent observable effects. In relation to the health and healing of the human body, it is wise to view the human body-mind-spirit organism as a series of interwoven systems, each with inherent, implicit order, the perceivable and observable aspects of which represent the effects of systems function. The observable effects of human condition emerge from an as yet unidentified causal order, a hidden and mysterious source out of which the manifest effects of human existence emerge. Holistic healing approaches human health and healing in terms of the interdependent relationships between multiple interwoven systems. The body-mind-spirit organism is viewed in terms of the intrinsic relationships that unite the multiple systems of the human being, rather than in terms of the observable boundaries that appear to separate and divide the multiple systems inherent to the human organism. Holistic healing, and kathara healing particularly, take the concept of intrinsic unity within the seemingly separate systems of the human being one step further than simple interrelationship between physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of human experience. In the paradigm of kathara healing, the human organism is viewed as a set of interwoven systems that is itself part of a larger system of interdependent systems. The human individual is not only recognized as a singular set of unified parts, but rather as an intrinsic part of the species, planetary, galactic, universal and cosmic systems within which human existence finds context for being. The cosmic unified field of energy and consciousness is viewed as the indelible medium within which all reality takes place, and human existence is viewed in terms of its relationship to this greater metasystem of interwoven, interdependent systems. The health and well-being of the human being is directly related to and affected by the system's functions of the greater unified field. In order to better understand and facilitate the health and healing of the biological organisms, it is useful to understand the basic order and function of the unified field, the context in which life itself takes place. Kathara healing is an ancient system of holistic healing, dating back beyond presently identified recorded human history. The principles of universal order as taught within Kathara theory present a broader context of universality than is presently recognized by contemporary Western science. Kathara is built upon laws of multidimensional universal physics, laws of intrinsic nature with which Western science is not yet familiar. In Kathara healing, the hidden order of universal systems is recognized, and the foundations of Kathara demonstrate the interwoven systems functions between human being and the order of the unified field. To develop proficiency and genuine skill within the art and science of holistic healing, the basic order of the unified field must be understood. For with this understanding comes the ability to directly interact with and influence the causal elements of the human experience. For this reason, the teachings of Kathara healing begin with providing a basic format through which the context of healing can be understood, a glimpse at the intrinsic order of the universal unified field. With foundations grounded in coherent systems relationships, the Kathara healing facilitator has more knowledge, power, and comprehension to bring to the art and science of healing facilitation. Through comprehension of the intrinsic systems of universal order, the Kathara facilitator progressively evolves to embrace the unity of self within within the unified field, opening to an ever-expanding capacity of spiritual awakening and the embodiment of unconditional love. The physical, mental, and spiritual aspects of human anatomy represent one interdependent, interwoven system that is continually in a state of relationship to the unified field. This relationship must be acknowledged and embraced if true health and healing are to occur. Human evolution is a bio-spiritual process. The body and the consciousness, the biology and the spirit, are inseparably intertwined within themselves and within the greater order of the unified field. The holographic template. The externalization of life, manifestation of matter and individuation of identity are holographic projections of consciousness energy substance, created through an intrinsic order of energetic relationships. Energetic relationships represent interrelationships of consciousness, in its infinite manifest and demanifest forms. Consciousness is energy and energy is conscious. True science has a spiritual core and true spirituality has its intrinsic translation within the laws of energy that govern the manifestation of universal systems. Reality is thought construction. The core substance of the cosmos is consciousness. Thought is an attribute of consciousness, the filler through which consciousness manifests itself into the hologram of form. Nothing lot truly solid. All things am composed of consciousness and their apparent solidify is determined by the relationship between the consciousness observing the form and the consciousness of which the form is made. Human consciousness emerges through an order of dimensionalization, which sets frameworks within which the interrelationships of consciousness can take place. Human perception of solidity and externalization is determined by the oscillation rates between dimensionalized units of consciousness. Dimensionalized units of consciousness form frequencies of energy, which exist in specific relationships to each other. Human consciousness, the soul spirit, and human physical form are patterns of frequency formed by dimensionalization of units of consciousness. We perceive manifest solidified due to the relationship between the frequencies of consciousness of which we are made and those of the unified field of conscious energy around us. Humans perceive as solid the frequency bands that exist one full-dimensional spectrum below the frequencies within which the individuated or collective consciousness is stationed. The only difference between a thought and a manifest thing is the frequency of the consciousness of the observer. Manifest reality is thought projection, made solid and externalized by relationships between the frequencies of our focus of attention and those of the projected thought forms. We perceive as reality the thought forma of the collective masses as they were placed within the frequency bands that now exist one dimension below the frequencies within which our present focus of collective consciousness is stationed. As reality is a thought field, composed of units of consciousness awareness, reality can be directly affected by thought, as the substance of both thought and reality are one and the same. The key to mastery of our present reality, and to restoring our imprint for health, is understanding the reality of dimensionalization within which our consciousness now resides. The human body is a holographic projection of consciousness that is built upon a holographic template of structured units of consciousness. The holographic template represents the living morphogenetic field, the dimensionalized blueprint of conscious light, sound and scalar waves, within which the individuated consciousness is stationed, and upon which the illusion of solidity of the body matter is formed. To effect true and lasting change within the body-mind-spirit system of the human being, one must go to the core of its manifest structure, the holographic template or thought energy blueprint, upon which the entire system of consciousness itself comes to know being. The body is a hologram that can be directly affected by the substance of which it is composed, consciousness. In learning the structure of dimensionalization through which the body illusion manifests, one becomes progressively more masterful in directing this personal thought from to suit one's desired specifications. The core holographic template of the personal and universal body is called the kathara grid. Kathara healing is the process by which the embodied aspects of human consciousness become more aware of and able to direct the intrinsic processes of holographic projection, with the intention of restoring integrity to the function of the body-mind-spirit system. No thing is truly manifest, it only appears to be so, due to the refraction of consciousness within the energetic relationships inherent to the holographic template, the original thought, construct upon which our universal structure is perpetually recreated. The causal element of all manifest experience is called a morphogenetic field or manifestation template. Heliontic science, the science of manifestation templates, is part of a larger advanced paradigm of science that is known as 15-dimensional universal unified field physics. Primal substance. A manifestation template is made of primal substance, units conscious energy called partiki that exist as omnipolar points of fixed vibration. Partiki units are the smallest building blocks of matter, and they form the templates upon which consciousness in all forms enters manifestation. Partiki units are omnipolar, containing the potentials for all polarities or none units of vibrating energy that perpetually cycle back and forth between a state of bipolar light radiation, scalar standing wave, and omnipolar sound vibration. In the omnipolar state, partiki units exist as invisible, fixed points of sound vibration, forming what is called an interdimensional tritone wave. An interdimensional tri-lone wave is a singular point of fixed vibration that is composed of three subvibrations: base tone, overtone, and resonant tone. When partiki units are in their omni-polar state, they exist as antimatter substance, the first state of energy organization before pre-matter manifestation. Through a process of internal fission, characteristic to their design, partiki units break apart to form bipolar waves, while replicating their original tritone omnipolar design. In the bipolar state, two subvibrations of the tritonal standing waves of partiki units break down into two subunits, subtones, called particum base tones and partika overtones, interconnected units of bipolar radiation that form electromagnetic scalar standing wave. The third vibration of the tritone wave, the resonant tone, remains as the core vibration through which the polarized vibrational units of particum and partika will reunite through internal fusion. Particum units form the energetic building blocks for particle templates, and partika units form the building blocks for simultaneously manifesting anti-particle templates. Particle and anti-particle templates are interconnected, united by the antimatter partiki units through which they manifest. The effects of electrical and magnetic force are set in motion through the expansion and contraction of energy vibration between particle and antiparticle matter units through the antimatter partiki unit that unite them. Particum particle units represent the contraction phase of antimatter energy, with higher vibration, energy contracted into or received by the antimatter template, and Iowa oscillation, energy expanded or transmitted from the antimatter template, and so are considered base magnetic. Partika antiparticle units represent the expansion phase of antimatter energy, with lower vibration and higher oscillation, and are considered base electrical. Electromagnetic energy is created through the continual cycling of energy, as the omnipolar antimatter tritone wave of sound vibration projects its energy into bipolar particum and partika scalar waves of light radiation. Energy thrust expands into the antiparticle partika vibration point as electrical force. It then contracts into the particle particum vibration point, creating magnetic put, in ratio to its original electrical thrust, as the third vibration in the antimatter tritone wave draws the energy back to its source. Through the draw of the antimatter partiki template, partika antiparticles and particum particles are brought into a state of fusion. Upon fusion, the energy of the particum and partika transmutes, the bipolar standing scalar waves of light radiation returning to their original omnipolar antimatter state of partiki units. Once returned to the partiki state, the process repeats as the partiki creates fission and replication. Partiki, particum and partika units represent phases that primal substance energy passes through as it moves into and out of manifestation. The process by which partiki units perpetually convert conscious energy into bipolar light radiation scalar waves, expansion, and back into omnipolar sound vibration tritone waves, contraction, is called partiki phasing. Through perpetual cycles of Particle phasing, matter units flash on, through fission, into bipolar particles and antiparticle manifestation built upon scalar waves of light radiation, then flash off through fusion, into omnipolar antimatter sound vibration, continually cycling energy between the manifest and non-manifest state. The perception of external physical matter, space, and the passage of time is created through variance in relationship between rates of particle phasing. Consciousness in the form of particle units is the primal substance of which the cosmos is structured, and particle phasing is the perpetual primal act of reciprocal fission and fusion through which primal substance is brought into manifestation. The morphogenetic field is made of interwoven particle grids. The electrotonal units of consciousness out of which particle grids form create standing wave patterns, scalar wave grids, which hold the form of consciousness within dimensionalized manifestation. Morphogenetic fields are thus scalar grids that form in specific ordered interrelationship. Particle grids form upon the core geometrical mathematical structure of the kathara grid, and so the kathara grid represents the core scalar field upon which form manifests. Morphogenetic fields govern the form of matter manifestation and evolution of biology and consciousness. Morphogenetic field mechanics thus hold the key to mastery of physical reality and bio-spiritual evolution. The structure of dimensions. Frequency bands and sub-frequency bands, vibration oscillation particle spin, harmonics of manifestation and matter density levels. The hologram of manifest reality is a complex system of interwoven energy constructs, all built upon dimensionalized sets of scalar grids or fields of standing wave points that form the base laws of energy upon which manifest reality functions. The physical portions of the human body represent wave strata that exist within specific relationships to the embodied consciousness. The embodied consciousness itself is regulated by the intrinsic behavior of the wave strata in which it is ensconced. The wave strata of seemingly physical forms appear to human detection in the form of particles, subparticles, and wave bands that group to form the three-dimensionally manifest hologram of human life. The behavior of dimensionalized wave strata is an intrinsic element within the function of human anatomy, and provides the very context within which human existence and evolution take place. When we come to understand ourselves as vibrating quantities of conscious energy, existing within a state of vibrational co-resonance with all things, which are themselves vibrating quantities of conscious energy, we can begin to understand the fundamental structures upon which the human condition is built. The human body is a construct of conscious energy, a living morphogenetic field existing within the greater living morphogenetic constructs of the species, planetary, galactic, universal, and cosmic morphogenetic structure. We are simply an element of sentient consciousness within a larger structure of sentient consciousness, a part of the unified field of consciousness that is the living identity of the cosmos. Our physicality emerges through the perceptual lens of dimensionalization, which provides us with the seeming manifestation of particles, atoms, molecules, and the physical systems built upon them. If we expect to heal ourselves of the manifest conditions that cause suffering within the body-mind-spirit system, we must first understand the nature of health, the way things are supposed to work when they are functioning properly. To understand the intrinsic imprint and impetus for health in the human organism, a basic understanding of the contents of its parts is in order. That understanding begins with identifying the basic reality structures within which we reside and how we exist in relationship to these structures. Our understanding of health begins with identifying the context of existence. The unified field of consciousness energy of which we are all a part. A simple identification of the structures of the unified field will work wonders in assisting us to understand ourselves, and through this understanding we become more empowered to foster a healthful and more joyous living experience. To better understand ourselves, we must return to the core of our intrinsic nature. The dimensionalized fields of consciousness within which we reside and out of which the substance of ourselves is composed. The following characteristics inherent to the manifestation of the human hologram are a place to begin our journey of self-understanding. Characteristics of the hologram. Scalar waves, points of standing waves, composed of quantities of conscious energy that emanate out of fixed units of vibration, Particle units, which form the morphogenetic field templates upon and through which consciousness dimensionalizes itself to experience the hologram of manifest reality. Created through particle phasing, internal flash-on or flash-off. Morphogenetic fields, the templates of consciousness, light, sound and scalar standing wave grids which serve as the structured blueprints upon which our consciousness manifests into dimensionalization, through which the holographic projections of space-time matter and identity individuation can be experienced. Dimensions, morphogenetic field scalar grids composed of interwoven layers of scalar waves, which serve to direct the flow of consciousness into multiple patterns of refraction through which the hologram of matter densify, linear time and objectification of reality can be experienced. Dimensions are specific structures of consciousness, composed of particle units with differing vibratory oscillation RALs, which exist in precise relationship to each other and govern the intrinsic laws of function within the observable manifest worlds. The process of dimensionalization occurs through the wholeness of consciousness compartmentalizing itself into various ordered sections having diversity of vibratory oscillation, through which the wholeness of consciousness may experience itself in an endless variety of forms. Each dimension represents a full frequency band. Frequency bands, synchronized, cyclic, repealed sequences of flashing on and off of scalar wavepoints within the dimensional scalar grids, which gives the appearance of manifest movement of wave spectra within a dimensional system. Subfrequency bands are shorter segments of the longer flashing and off sequence of the full frequency band. The frequency of dimensional levels and the particles within them is determined by the vibratory oscillation RAL of the particle units that make up the scalar wave grid. Frequency is the form consciousness takes on while ensconced within the framework of dimensionalization. Frequency is the vibrating oscillating wave spectra of which matter particles and dimensionalized consciousness are composed. Vibration oscillation. Vibration is the condition of internal movement, or holding of energy, within units of consciousness, also known as particle, and the particles built upon them. Vibration is determined by the quantity of energy held within particle units. Oscillation is the condition of external movement, or expending of energy, from particle units and the particles built upon them. The vibratory oscillation rate of particles represents the rate at which the scalar standing waves flash off and on within the morphogenetic field template. Vibration is the internal measure of energy quantity held within particle units and exists within direct proportion to the oscillation rate, or external measure of energy quantity expended, exhibited by particle and the particles built upon them. The vibratory oscillation rate represents the ratio between energy contraction, vibration, and energy expansion, oscillation, which sets the rhythm of particle pulsation that governs the formation of wave spectra within dimensionalization. The vibratory oscillation rate of particle units determines the frequency, cyclic pattern of scalar waves flashing off and on, of wave spectra within the various levels of the dimensionalized morphogenetic field. The relationship of vibrational oscillation between wave spectra determines the matter density levels particles will exhibit within the dimensional scale. The human anatomy is a 15-dimensional morphogenetic field scalar grid structure, composed of wave spectra with varying degrees of matter density characteristic to the dimensional band with which each level of the anatomy is stationed. The portions of our anatomy that appear solid are those stationed one dimension below our focus of conscious attention. Primal order of manifestation templates. Morphogenetic fields, or the manifestation templates that serve as the blueprint through which consciousness manifests, are composed of the primal substance of particle units. Particle units draw together to accrete to form particle strings. Following a set mathematical and geometrical design inherent to their form, particle strings interweave and overlap, forming a fabric of light and sound called a particle grid. A particle grid is a fixed pattern of interwoven bipolar scalar waves of light radiation, built upon omnipolar tritone waves of sound vibration, that forms the foundation for diversified manifestation templates. A Partiki grid is a scalar grid. Following the precise mathematical design set by the will and intention of the manifesting consciousness, Partiki grids further accrete, drawing in more Partiki units, forming groups of Partiki units that are arranged following 3 different rhythms of Partiki phasing. Tri-phase groupings of Partiki units form patterns of scalar wave and tritone wave interrelationships that create crystallizations of energy called kalons. Groups of kalons continue to accrete, forming complex kalon arrangements called kalon codes, through which the manifestation template is progressively built up from antimatter through various stages of matter density, beginning with pre-matter substance, the first density of liquid silica hydroplasmic energy to emerge into externalized form. The morphogenetic fields upon which universes manifest are built upon a manifestation template that has a specific order of mathematical interrelationships that govern the combining of scalar grids with different rates of Partiki phasing. The cosmic manifestation template is called the energy matrix. Within the energy matrix, there are many smaller manifestation templates upon which universes are structured. Universal manifestation templates are called time matrices. There are uncountable time matrices within the energy matrix, which are collectively referred to as the time matrix. All time matrices within the cosmic matrix follow a specific mathematical geometrical program through which space, time and matter can be experienced by consciousness upon entering the time matrix structure. Time matrices are arranged upon a pattern of 15 different, but interwoven, Partiki phasing rhythms of expansion and contraction of energy. Each of the 15 rhythms of Partiki phasing creates one dimension. A dimension is a set pattern of flash line sequences, or a cycle of singular Partiki phasing rhythms, that contains within it 12 smaller rhythms of Partiki phasing. Each dimensional manifestation template creates a set of fixed scalar tritone wave points that create a template of stationary scalar frequency. Each dimension represents one scalar frequency band containing 12 smaller subfrequency bands. A scalar frequency band is a cyclic pattern of specific Partiki phasing rhythms, or expansion and contraction ratios of energy circulation, to which consciousness conforms in order to enter the experience of manifestation. 2. Create the universal manifestation template, upon which external space, time and matter experience can be known. Dimensions are ordered into sets of 15, forming the blueprint for a 15-dimensional time matrix. Within a time matrix, the 15 dimensions are further arranged into sets of 3 dimensions, forming 53-dimensional reality fields. Each 3-dimensional reality field is called a harmonic universe, and each represents a level of matter densification specific to its intrinsic rates of Partiki phasing. One time matrix is thus a 15-dimensional scalar grid with 5 separate yet interwoven reality fields and 5 different densities of matter manifestation. Each of the 5 harmonic universes within a time matrix represents a time cycle. A time cycle is a fixed, repeating pattern of Partiki flash line sequences, or a repeating cycle of specific ratios of energy expansion oscillation and contraction vibration. The time cycle of a harmonic universe is called an Yuyago cycle. There are 5 simultaneously manifesting Yuyago cycles in every time matrix, through which consciousness passes in order to experience linear evolution through space, time and matter. Each Yuyago cycle contains within it 6 smaller flash line sequences forming 6 smaller cycles of time, called time continua. The primal order of manifestation templates represents the core mathematical and geometrical interrelationships of energy that consciousness takes on in order to enter the holographically projected experience of external space, time and matter. All manifest forms, including the human body and psyche, are built upon a manifestation template that begins with the primal order of dimensionalization, through which the consciousness anchors itself into the time cycles of the universal manifestation template time matrix, to begin the experience of evolution through time. Understanding the primal order of dimensional structure, as it pertains to the human organism, allows for comprehension of the greater causal framework through which personal healing must occur. Such comprehension of the core causal structure of manifestation enables one to work cooperatively with, rather than in resistance to, the natural universal laws of manifestation, progressively restoring the natural harmonic order of well-being in divine right form, through which the indelible organic imprint for health can be progressively restored. Dimensional structure. A dimension represents a full frequency band, or repeating, cyclic sequence of flashing on and off scalar wavepoints within a morphogenetic field. The morphogenetic field's scalar grid structure of dimensions takes the form of sets of 15-dimensional matrices. The 15 dimensions are grouped into sets of 3 dimensions each, forming 5 sets of 3-dimensional reality fields called harmonic universes. The 15 dimensions composing the 5 harmonic universes together represent one time matrix system. Each dimension of frequency is composed of 12 subfrequency bands, or shorter cycle of flashing on and off or scalar wavepoints, which exist as part of the longer cycle of the full dimensional frequency band. The partiki in each dimension have a specific rate of vibratory oscillation, contraction, and expansion of energy, which determines the angular rotation of particle spin, which is angular axis upon which particles will spin. There is a 90-degree shift of angular rotation of particle spin between each dimensional frequency band and a 45-degree reverse shift between harmonic universes, set of 3 dimensions or frequency bands. Particles having varying vibratory oscillation rates and angles of spin allow multiple dimensional reality fields to coexist within the same space while remaining perceptually invisible to each other. The relationships between wave strata within the dimensional frequency bands create the holographic refraction of light, sound and scalar waves that allows consciousness to perceive the illusions of matter solidity, space, time and externalization of reality while it is ensconced within the structures of dimensionalization. Frequency bands and subfrequency bands within the 15-dimensional scale. Frequency bands are cyclic, repealed sequenced of flashing on and off of scalar standing wavepoints that create the appearance of manifest wave spectra within a dimensional system. Subfrequency bands are shorter cycle segments of the longer flashing on and off sequence of the full frequency band. Frequency and subfrequency bands make up the foundation wave strata of dimensions. One harmonic universe composed of 3 dimensions, each dimension composed of 12 subfrequency sands, for a total of 36 subfrequency bands in one harmonic universe. Partiki phasing, harmonics of manifestation and matter density. Partiki phasing, also known as scalar standing or wave flashing, is the internal expansion, or flashing off of scalar standing wavepoints made of partiki units. Partiki phasing governs the mechanics of matter manifestation within the dimensionalized frequency bands of the time matrix. Through partiki phasing, harmonics of manifestation and varying levels of matter density are created. Each of the 5 harmonic universes, moving upward in the 15-dimensional scale, has a progressively less dense state of perceivable matter. As you go up the dimensional scale, each dimension has a progressively faster rate of partiki phasing with its corresponding higher frequency, faster oscillation, lower vibration, shorter wavelength, greater expansion, and less matter density. These conditions represent the stages of perceivable matter density consciousness will experience as the focus of attention expands progressively upward and outward into the higher dimensions of the dimensional scale through the process of evolution, which is accretion of frequency from the unified field into the personal morphogenetic field. As consciousness progressively expands back into the 15-dimensional structure of its original morphogenetic field, matter density perception will change from perceivable gross matter physical density, to semi-etheric matter density, to etheric matter density, to pre-matter liquid light density and to its original antimatter scalar waveform of non-density consciousness. As the morphogenetic field expands, through drawing in more frequencies of consciousness, the perceivable matter density of the body and external reality field progressively lessens. Universal and planetary kathara. The kathara grid is the primary mathematical geometrical organization of units of consciousness upon which partiki units group to form morphogenetic field scalar grids. It is the core level of scalar standing wave creation and energetic organization within and behind all dimensionalized systems, and is thus considered to be the core of the holographic template upon which the morphogenetic scalar wave blueprint and all other dimensions of form anatomy are built. The kathara grid is the causal element within all manifest effects of dimensionalization and consciousness. The form of the kathara grid is reflected in the macrocosm and microcosm of all manifestation. All forms have at their core the common structure of the kathara grid holographic template. The kathara grids of all forms, universes, galaxies, planets and species are linked to each other and to the kathara grid of the cosmos through the interwoven Partiki scalar standing wave grids of the kathara grid holographic core. The cosmic kathara grid represents the scalar field of the cosmic unified field of consciousness energy through which the hologram of manifest experience is perpetually created. Energy cannot be created or destroyed, it only changes form. Energy is eternal consciousness that perpetually changes form by projecting through the structures of the kathara grid, while simultaneously remaining always the same, the singular wholeness of the cosmic unified field of consciousness energy. Structure of the kathara level 112 tree grid core scalar template. 12 primary kathara centers. Kathara centers are condensed scalar wave points that hold the core electrotonal geometrical mathematical program for dimensionalized structure. There are 12 kathara centers, each holding the program for one dimension. The program for Partiki phasing and vibration oscillation for each dimensional frequency band is set in the corresponding kathara center. The kathara centers set the template for each dimension, to ground consciousness within the holographic experience of manifestation. 15 primary kathara lines. Kathara lines are the primary sequences of Partiki phasing that transmit the electrotonal programs held within the kathara centers from one dimension to another, to keep the continual flow of consciousness circulating throughout the 15-dimensional levels of the morphogenetic field. When functioning properly, the kathara lines connect each harmonic and dimension of consciousness to the other and govern the synchronization of cycles of time within the dimensional fields and within the morphogenetic field, DNA, and body rhythms of dimensionalized forms. The 3 vertical kathara lines control the operation of the other 12 kathara lines. The central vertical kathara line is the control center for Partiki phasing rhythms throughout the kathara line system. The 2 interwoven kathara grids of primal order within the universal time matrix and cosmic energy matrix of the primal manifestation template. A dimension is full frequency band of repelled sequence of flashing on and off of scalar wave points within a morphogenetic field. 12 centers of the cosmic kathara grid. The first primal organization of Partiki scalar grids that forms the 3 non-dimensional levels of the energy matrix and antimatter density dimensions, 13 to 15 of the time matrix. 5 harmonics of matter density in the time matrix, 1. Gross matter D1 D3. 2. Semi-etheric D4 D6. 3. Etheric D7 D9. 4. Pre-matter D10 D12. 5. Antimatter D13 D15. 12 centers of the universal kathara grids. The second primal organization of Partiki scalar grids that forms the 12 dimensions of the time cycles and pre-matter to gross matter density levels of the time matrix, within the energy matrix. There are 3 primary levels to the structure of the kathara grid. Level 1, the kathara 12 tree, Level 2, the crystal seals. And Level 3, the dyadic points. Level 1 is the 12 tree holds the first mathematical geometrical program upon which kathara grid levels 2 and 3 are created, and is composed of the kathara centers and kathara lines. Level 2 is the crystal seals are groups of 3-dimensional Partiki scalar wave composites that regulate the rate of Partiki phasing to create the base structures upon which dimensionalization is formed. The flow of frequency, which is sequences of scalar standing wave flashing of Partiki phasing, between dimensional bands and harmonic universes, the fixed expansion and contraction rates of Partiki, the vibration oscillation and the angular rotation of particle spin are all regulated by the crystal seals. Level 3 is where dyadic and meiotic points represent concentrated areas of energy that emerge at points where dimensionalized levels of scalar grids cross over and through each other, creating minute vortices of wave spectra that serve as frequency modulation zones, scalar flash cycle transition points, between dimensional frequency bands. Dyadic point vortices are white hole vortices that transmit energy into the particle universe from their counterpart meiotic point vortices within the antiparticle universe. Through the structure of dimensionalization, each harmonic universe, and the structures contained therewithin have, within their morphogenetic fields, sets of dyadic and meiotic points, sets of white and black holes that regulate the flux of consciousness energy between systems. The entire cosmic structure is built upon the morphogenetic foundations of interwoven kathara grids. Within the structures of forms, such as planets or people, the kathara grid is the core template of holographic manifestation and controls the structure and function of all of the other subtle and physical energy systems. Planetary scalar templates, which are planetary shields such as vortices, electromagnetics, axiom and ley lines, are all governed by the operations of the kathara grid. In the human body, personal scalar templates, uva bodies, chakras, axiom and meridian lines and bioenergetic field auric levels, as well as the physical systems, conscious awareness and DNA, are controlled by the personal kathara grid. In terms of generating the imprint for health within the human organism, as well as reclaiming dormant potentials of immortality, the kathara grid is the causal mechanism through which such effects can occur. Kathara Level 2 Crystal Seals Grid. The crystal seals are groups of three-dimensional Partiki scalar wave composites that regulate the rate of Partiki phasing to create the base structures upon which dimensionalization is formed. The flow of frequency, sequences of scalar standing wave flashing cycles of Partiki phasing, between dimensional bands and harmonic universes, the fixed expansion and contraction rates of Partiki, the vibration oscillation and the angular rotation of particles spin are all regulated by the crystal seals. Planetary star crystal seals. In the planetary kathara grids, the 15 primary star crystal seals exist between each planetary vortex of chakra, on the central kathara line or central planetary axis. The star crystal seals serve as frequency seals that open or close the flow of wave spectra and frequency bands from one harmonic universe to another, by regulating and modulating the sequences of Partiki phasing and the vibration oscillation rates of Partiki units within the dimensional scale. They control the opening and closing of the central vertical kathara line and central planetary axis, through which particles are phase-locked into their respective dimensional placements and linear time cycle orientations. Opening of the star crystal seals releases the planetary particles and ley lines from their dimensional phase lock, opening interharmonic stargates, which are wave spectra vortices, within the ley lines, for molecular transmutation and time continuum shift, through blending the interharmonic wave spectra at the planetary morphogenetic field. The planetary star crystal seal. Control. The opening and closing of the three vertical kathara lines, and vertical stargate passageways, of the level 112 tree kathara grid within the planetary body. Biological star crystal seals. In the human body, the 15 primary star crystal cells exist between each chakra on the central kathara line of central body current. The biological star crystal seals serve as frequency seals that open or close the flow of wave spectra and frequency bands from one harmonic of consciousness to another, by regulating and modulating the sequences of Partiki phasing and vibration oscillation rates of Partiki units within the dimensionalized scalar wave grid at the morphogenetic field. They control the opening and closing of the central vertical kathara line and central body current, through which particles are phase-locked into their respective dimensional placements and linear time cycle orientations. Opening of the biological slay crystal seals releases the body particles and DNA from their dimensional phase lock, opening interharmonic stargates, wave spectra vortices, within the DNA, for cellular transmutation, via particle plus antiparticle fusion and time continuum shift, through blending the interharmonic wave spectra. The biological star crystal seals control the opening and closing of the 3 vertical kathara lines and vertical wave spectra vortices of the level 112 tree kathara grid within the biological form. Seed crystal seals. Along with the 15 primary star crystal seals that control the vertical modulation of wave spectra, there are also 15 secondary crystal seal that control the horizontal kathara lines of the level 112 tree kathara grid within the planetary and biological bodies. The horizontal crystal seals are called seed seals. They exist and serve as frequency seals within the planetary vortices and biological chakras, modulating the wave spectra between parallel dimensional frequency bands. Kathara grid level 3. Level 3 is the diotic meiotic points that represent concentrated areas of energy that emerge at points where dimensionalized levels of scalar grids cross over end through each other, creating minute vortices of wave spectra that serve as frequency modulation zonas, which are flash cycle transition points between dimensional frequency bands. Diotic point vortices are white hole vortices that transmit energy into the particle universe from their counterpart meiotic point vortices within the antiparticle universe. Through the structure of dimensionalization, each harmonic universe, and the structures contained therewithin, have within their morphogenetic fields sets of diotic and meiotic points, which are sets of white and black holes that regulate the flux of consciousness energy between systems. Planetary diotic points. Within the planetary body and morphogenetic field, diotic points are located in geographical locations where interdimensional and interharmonic horizontal and vertical kathara lines intersect to form small vortices of interdimensional or interharmonic wave spectra that serve as passageways, time portals, between dimensional time continua or harmonic time cycles. They connect planetary and stellar bodies to their antiparticle counterparts and intersect with vertical interharmonic star gates and horizontal interdimensional time portals through sets of diotic meiotic white and black holes at the center of the planetary and stellar cores. Biological diotic points within the biological form and morphogenetic field. Diotic points are located in physical body regions where interdimensional and interharmonic horizontal and vertical kathara lines intersect to form small vortices of interdimensional or interharmonic wave spectra that serve as gateways of consciousness between dimensional time continua or harmonic time cycles. They connect physical bodies to their antiparticle counterparts and intersect with the vertical and horizontal relationships of wave spectra within the DNA, RNA, and bioenergetic field, through sets of white and black holes at the center of the biological harmonic scalar grids. Diagonal grid control. The kathara grid level 3 diotic points control the diagonal kathara lines, diagonal interdimensional portals, diagonal planetary ley lines, and diagonal relationships between interdimensional wave spectra within the biological DNA. In kathara healing, the diotic points are used to open and close the diagonal kathara lines for channeling higher dimensional frequency into the level 1 kathara grid, to regenerate the imprint for health and to revitalize the bioenergetic and physical systems. The Universal Templar Complex. The systems of interwoven manifestation templates within the 5 matter density levels of the 15-dimensional universal kathara grid are collectively referred to as the Universal Templar Complex. The manifestation template of the human body, likewise structured upon this primal order, also manifests through a personal internal Templar complex of interwoven 15-dimensional manifestation templates. Universal, galactic and planetary scalar wave templates of the Universal Templar complex are called scalar shields. Shields are sets of dimensional scalar grids upon which the 5 matter density levels of the universal manifestation template manifest. A shield is composed of the distinct 3 primary flash line sequences, or Partiki phasing rhythms, characteristic to the 3 dimensions of which the shield is composed. The internal Templar complex of the human body is also organized into 5 sets of 3-dimensional personal scalar shields, through which the matter form and 5 matter density levels of the 15-dimensional human consciousness are projected into manifest experience. Through the intrinsic dynamics of synchronistic Particle phasing, each three-dimensional scalar shield manifests a three-dimensional spherical electromagnetic domain that creates the energetic framework within which the externalized manifest experience can take place. Within the universal Templar complex, these spherical domains form 5 separate yet interwoven reality fields or harmonic universes, each with a different level of matter density, rate of vibrational oscillation, different angular rotation of particle spin and variance in time cycle orientation. Within the personal internal Templar complex, the spherical electromagnetic domains created by synchronistic, dimensionalized Particle phasing form within the 15-dimensional time matrix 5 separate, yet interwoven stations of consciousness called UVA bodies. The 5 UVA bodies, or human manifestation template anatomy, within the time matrix, represent the 5 subtle energy bodies of human bioenergetic field construction, through which human identity experiences series of simultaneous incarnations within various time cycles and matter density levels of the time matrix. Human evolution is the process by which the electromagnetic frequencies and stations of consciousness of the 5 UVA bodies progressively merge to transmute the physical matter form backward through various matter density stages through a process called transmutational dimensional ascension. Each of the 5 shields within a 15-dimensional manifestation template is structured upon 3 kathara centers within the core primal order of the level 1 kathara 12-tree grid. Each kathara center of the universal kathara grid forms a core point of consolidated frequency called a signet star crystal seal within the 3-dimensional scalar shields. Within the universal, galactic and planetary Templar complex, the signet seals operate as star gates between the time cycles of the 5 matter density levels of the 15-dimensional time matrix. Within the personal internal Templar complex, each UVA body is structured upon 3 kathara centers within the embodied personal kathara grid. Each embodied kathara center forms a signet star crystal seal within the human anatomy. The embodied signet seals operate as bioelectric windows within the DNA-RNA that link the stations of consciousness and various simultaneous incarnations of the identity that exist within the time cycles of the time matrix to each other, across the illusions of time. Through the embodied personal kathara grid, scalar shields, signet seals and DNA windows, the individuated aspects of eternal identity in time are indelibly linked in consciousness. This intrinsic linking of personal consciousness within the various simultaneous cycles of time appears to the embodied human awareness as reincarnational memory. The embodied manifestation template of the human form is a microcosmic reflection of the macrocosmic universal and cosmic manifestation templates. Both microcosmic and macrocosmic manifestation templates share, and are interwoven through, the same primal structures of the kathara 12-tree scalar grid, the 5 3-dimensional scalar shields and signet star and seed crystal seals and the dyadic point black and white hole sets of energy vortices that manifest upon the kathara grid. Human consciousness and biology are directly and indelibly connected to the universal Templar complex through the personal internal Templar complex of the personal manifestation template. Healing in primal fulfillment. A rudimentary but operational understanding of the intrinsic structure of the embodied personal manifestation template and its relationship to the universal Templar complex allows the embodied human consciousness the opportunity for progressive participation within the processes of conscious evolution and intentional restoration of the organic imprint for health. All manifest disease originates through distortions in the electrotonal scalar wave programs of the kathara grid, scalar shields and manifestation template. To achieve true and lasting healing rather than suppression and transference of disease to other embodied systems, distortions within the personal manifestation template need to be realigned from the causal kathara grid level through regenesis of primal order within the organic imprint for health. Manifestation template healing therapeutics, based upon the knowledge of the kathara grid, simultaneously work to restore the natural intended primal order and function of the human body and consciousness, while expediting the evolutionary process of merging the stations of identity through time, to facilitate fulfillment of the organic primal purpose. The primal purpose of human evolution is the achievement of transmutational dimensional ascension and co-creative mastery over the personal external consciousness and internal Templar complex within the holographic fields of the time matrix. Through fulfillment of the primal purpose, humanity will regain the primal condition of conscious at one-ment with the universe and the central source of creation, or God. The Universal Templar Complex. The Transduction Sequence. The transduction sequence represents the phases consciousness passes through into dimensionalization and the process by which conscious energy is transduced and changes form to enter the wave spectra within which perception of manifestation is possible. Holographic reality construction. The unified field of conscious energy. The scalar standing wave grids that make up dimensionalized morphogenetic fields represent the intrinsic structure of the cosmic unified field of energy within which all things exist. Energy is conscious and consciousness is energy. Consciousness energy cannot be created or destroyed. It simply changes form, while simultaneously remaining always the same, the eternal unified field of consciousness. The Kathara grid. All forms of consciousness and perceivably manifest forms derive their individuation within the unified field through the structure of their individuated morphogenetic field. Though having much diversification within the geometrical mathematical programs that form individuality within like patterns, the core of all identity and manifest form is the same, the intrinsic structure of the Kathara grid, the core holographic template of dimensionalization upon which morphogenetic fields are formed. Interwoven morphogenetic field. The inherent structure of interwoven Kathara grids forms spherical dimensionalized morphogenetic fields within which consciousness can experience the holographic projection of manifest reality, space, time, matter, and externalization. The spherical morphogenetic structures of the microcosm exist within the greater spherical morphogenetic fields of the macrocosm, forming a system of conscious energetic spheres within spheres that represents the interwoven morphogenetic fields of the cosmic unified field of consciousness energy. Spheres within spheres are interwoven morphogenetic fields. The microcosm within the macrocosm. The individual within the species, within the planetary, within the galactic, within the universal, within the cosmic, within the infinite and eternal. Chapter 1, Highlights. The holographic template. External reality is a holographic projection. Perception of solidity and externalization is determined by the oscillation rates between dimensionalized units of consciousness partiki, partika, and particum. Dimensionalized units of consciousness form frequency bands that exist in specific relationships to each other. We perceive as solid the frequency bands that exist one full dimensional band below the frequencies within which the consciousness is stationed. Dimensionalization creates the structure through which consciousness can perceive the hologram of externalization. The human body is a hologram built upon a holographic template of units of consciousness structured into scalar standing wave grids that represent the living morphogenetic field blueprint upon which matter and dimensionalized consciousness manifest. The unified field is built upon dimensionalized sets of scalar wave points, wave strata formed of units of consciousness that form the basis of energetic relationship through which the hologram of manifestation can be perceived. The human body is a construct of conscious energy, built upon a 15-dimensional anatomy of dimensionalized scalar grids. Perceived physicality emerges through the perceptual lens of dimensionalization, which provides the picture of seemingly manifest particles, atoms, molecules, and physical systems. Understanding the nature and structure of holographic reality allows us to understand the foundations upon which the body is built and the context within which healing must occur. Scalar waves are standing wave points that emanate out of fixed points of sound, electrotonal partiki units, which form the scalar grid morphogenetic templates that house consciousness in dimensionalization for experience of manifest reality. Scalar grids are created through partiki phasing. Partiki phasing is the process of internal expansion and contraction, characteristic of partiki units, through which the units perpetually break apart and replicate through fission, then remerge through fusion. creates a flashing on and off of scalar wavepoints, or flashline sequences, that determine the intrinsic orientation of consciousness within the scalar grids composing morphogenetic fields. Dimensions are scalar grids of consciousness composed of interwoven layers of scalar waves with varying flashline sequences, or frequency bands. Dimensions are frequency bands, or Particle wave spectra, that exist within specific relationship to each other to form the template of holographic reality. Frequency bands are synchronized, repeating flashline sequences of particle phasing that give the appearance of manifest movement of wave spectra within a dimensional scalar grid. Subfrequency bands are portions of the flashline sequences that make up the whole dimensional band. The frequency of a dimensional band is determined by the vibratory oscillation rate of particle units that make up the dimensional scalar grids. Vibration is the internal movement or energy holding of particle units. Oscillation is the external movement or energy expended by particle units. Vibratory oscillation rate is the rate at which particle phasing flashing on and off occurs. Vibration and oscillation exist in direct proportion to each other. As vibration increases, energy holding, oscillation decreases, energy expenditure. Faster flashline sequences, higher frequency, expend more energy, raise oscillation, and lower vibration of scalar templates. Higher oscillation, which means slower vibration, creates slower electron movement around nucleus and less perceivable density of matter. Jaw dimension is a full frequency band or full cycle of a flashline sequence. The universal morphogenetic template is built upon sets of 15 primary flashline sequences that form 15-dimensional time matrices within which manifestation can be experienced. Dimensions are organized into sets of three full flashline sequences and 3 frequency bands that create the template through which 3-dimensional manifestation can be experienced. Each set of 3 dimensions is called a harmonic universe. There are 5 harmonic universes within a 15-dimensional time matrix. Each dimension contains 12 primary sub-frequency bands, which are partial flashline sequences. Particle in each dimension have specific set particle phasing rhythms, giving each dimension a specific ratio of vibration oscillation. Higher dimensions have faster particle phasing, are higher frequency and thus have higher oscillation, lower vibration, and less particle density. Vibratory oscillation rate within a dimension determines the angular rotation of particle spin, or rotational axis of particles in a dimension. There is a 90-degree shift between each dimension and a 45-degree reverse shift in between harmonic universes. Particles having varying vibratory oscillation rates and allow multiple 3-dimensional reality fields to coexist within the same space while remaining perceptually and experientially invisible to each other. The relationship between wave strata and variance in particle phasing, flashline sequences, within dimensional frequency bands create holographic refraction of consciousness energy that allows perception of an externalized, 3-dimensional holographic illusion for consciousness focused within the scalar grids of the 15-dimensional time matrix. Universal and planetary kathara. The kathara grid is the first level of particle structure that sets consciousness into dimensionalization. It is thus the core holographic template upon which the morphogenetic field blueprint is structured. The kathara grid is the core holographic template for dimensionalization of the unified field of consciousness energy, through which the microcosm and the macrocosm are structured. All things are built upon the foundation of the kathara grid. There are 3 primary levels to the kathara grid. Level 1, the 12-tree grid with kathara centers and kathara lines. Level 2, the crystal seals with uva bodies and scalar shields, and Level 3, the dyadic points of minute energy vortex white and black hole sets. Kathara 12-tree grid. Level 1 kathara holds the base electrotonal programs of particle phasing and dimensional structure upon which the other kathara levels and the morphogenetic field are built. Kathara scalar shields and crystal seals. Level 2 Kathara grid is composed of 5 groups of 3-dimensional scalar shields and crystal seals that regulate the rates of partiki phasing to create the base structures upon which dimensionalization is built. Kathara diotic points. Level 3 Kathara grid is made of sets of minute white and black hole energy vortices, made of interdimensional scalar wave spectra, that regulate the flux of consciousness energy between dimensional, harmonic and parallel and antiparticle systems. Cosmic morphogenetic structure is built upon interwoven Kathara grids and the dimensionalized scalar standing wave templates they form. The 5 primary scalar templates of dimensionalization are formed on scalar shields, composed of sets of 3 dimensions, which form 5 3-dimensional spheres of energy called uva bodies. Uva bodies and their scalar shields hold consciousness energy into 5 separate but interwoven 3-dimensional systems. The Kathara grid, and the multiple levels of morphogenetic structure built upon it, is the causal element behind and within all manifestation and thus the core holographic template through which the imprint for health can be restored to biology. All manifest disease originates through distortions in the natural electrotonal partiki unit arrangements of the Kathara grid and uva body scalar shields. The Kathara grid and morphogenetic field are the core elements through which lasting healing is created. Healing occurs through regenesis of natural electrotonal programs of the holographic template. Partiki units, scalar stand waves, and crystalline kalins and kalin codes represent the primal substance in energy that consciousness takes on in order to create the holographic projection of external manifestation. The Kathara grid, 15-dimensional structure, scalar shields, crystal seals, 5 3-dimensional harmonic universes and uva bodies, diotic point vortices and the subtle and dense matter energetic systems that manifest upon them represent the primal order of mathematical and geometrical interrelationship that primal substance utilizes to orchestrate the manifest hologram through creation of manifestation templates. The interwoven, ordered structures of scalar wave fields that form the universal manifestation template of the 15-dimensional time matrix are collectively referred to as the universal Templar complex. The interwoven, ordered structures of scalar wave fields that form the personal manifestation template of 15-dimensional human anatomy are collectively referred to as the personal internal Templar complex. The internal Templar complex, a structural replica of the macrocosmic universal Templar complex, anchors personal consciousness into the time matrix for the experience of the space, time and matter hologram. The primal purpose of human evolution is the achievement of transmutational dimensional ascension and co-creative mastery over the personal eternal consciousness and internal Templar complex within the holographic fields of the time matrix. Regenesis of the primal order within the organic imprint for health creates true healing and expedites the natural processes of human evolution. Through fulfillment of the primal purpose, humanity will regain the primal condition of eternal conscious at one-ment with the central source of creation or God. Chapter 2. The Elements of Healing. The structures of manifestation and reclaiming our power. In part 1 of this program, The Context of Healing, we explored the hidden foundations of reality structure within which our existence takes place, the context of relativity through and within which healing occurs. We learned that the context of existence can be viewed as taking place within a unified field of energy, and that energy is consciousness and consciousness is energy. In our exploration we encountered the partiki, partika and particum, the ultra-microparticle units of consciousness in electrotonal form, through which the tangible structure of living morphogenetic fields are formed. In learning the foundation structures of the unified field of consciousness energy, we come to understand that the anatomy of any form, including that of the human body-mind-spirit system, is a multi-dimensional construct built on an ordered template of sets of 15 dimensions, through which all conditions of apparent manifestation are created. Through reviewing the underlying structures of manifest reality, we have already expanded our perceptions of the nature of reality itself. With these simple revelations of knowledge, we have shifted ourselves from a perspective of viewing the reality before us as one of separate manifestations disconnected from our being to a perspective of viewing reality as an intricate system of interwoven consciousness, expressing in the form of standing wave strata, to which we are intimately and indelibly connected. Suddenly we find that we cannot be left of things, we cannot be on the outside as life passes us by, that there is no outside from which we may stand separate, as by the nature of our existence we are an intrinsic element and force of creative effect within the whole of creation. Through this knowledge we have begun to lap the secrets of self, as we shift from viewing ourselves as mortal creatures trapped within a gross matter finite physical body to knowing ourselves as the expression of conscious, sentient wave strata, eternal beings ensconced within an eternal universe, within which energy consciousness cannot be created or destroyed, it simply changes form perpetually. We move from perceiving ourselves as finite beings of limited power to affect a wind that is separate from us, to knowing that we are walking waveforms within a sea of interrelated waveforms and that the pattern of our being operates as an intrinsic part of the whole. As we begin to perceive ourselves in terms of the unlimited reality of our nature, rather than define ourselves by the limited boundaries of the manifest illusion before us, we begin to reclaim our power to effect desired change within the contours of our lives. Knowledge, knowing and the imprint for health. Knowledge is an agent of freedom, if it is used to foster practical applications of change. Knowledge can also become a perpetual quest of distraction, through which we deny ourselves the ability to embrace the experience of living as we seek outside of ourselves the answers that live within. Knowledge is power if it is applied appropriately. It can be an agent that leads one through the door to the wisdom that awaits on the other side. Knowledge alone cannot provide cognition. Cognition comes through the application of applied knowledge to provide tangible, experiential knowing, and knowing derived only through the direct experience of being. In kathara healing, knowledge is applied as a tool through which one can grow into the wisdom of direct experience from thinking or believing, which are knowledge-based characteristics of a mind perceiving itself as finite, to knowing, through direct cognition of the experience of being, which is a characteristic of a consciousness knowing itself as eternal. In our first lessons of kathara healing, we gained knowledge of the context of healing and the structure of that which exists within and around us, so that we may become more empowered to serve as a healing force, within ourselves and within the collective of the whole. But this knowledge will only become practical or useful if it is applied to foster the direct experience through which the knowing may emerge. Then, and only then, will we be changed, then and only then will we become true agents of healing. Knowledge can help you to understand the nature of health and healing, but only through knowing health through direct experience will you be healed. To know health we must rediscover this quality within ourselves. To experience the quality of wellness that emerges as the imprint for health is reawakened within the human body. First we must use knowledge to recognize that the imprint for health is there, sleeping silently within us, awaiting this awakening. Healing the causal core. Fixing symptoms does not restore the imprint for health, it simply masks from view the causal elements through which non-health manifested. Removing the symptom without addressing the underlying cause simply sets the stage for the cause to re-manifest itself in new ways, through new sets of symptoms. Each symptom you remove will give birth to another symptom if the underlying cause is not changed. Kathara healing addresses the deepest causal factor in manifestation, the holographic template kathara grid, upon which all conditions come into being. Within the intrinsic structure of the kathara grid, the dormant imprint for health is sleeping, and through knowledge of kathara and applications of its methods, we can reawaken the imprint for health within ourselves to progressively move into knowing health through the cognition of direct experience. In kathara healing you are provided with the knowledge you need to understand the structures upon which the imprint for health is built. For in understanding these structures, you will be enabled to call the imprint for health into awakening. But it is through the application of kathara technique that you will effect change. The technique applications offered in kathara healing allow you to bring the knowledge home to the core of its usefulness, the ability to lead you into the direct experience of healthward change. Elements of healing. Here we will apply the knowledge of the context of healing that we acquired earlier directly to its relevance in terms of the human body. We will now explore kathara mechanics as they apply directly to the human system, and you will gain the knowledge of your 15-dimensional anatomy, through which you may then effectively utilize kathara mechanics techniques to begin your journey into the experiential reality of healing. We will discover the long-forgotten potentials of the planetary biofeed interface system and how to receive energy for healing directly from the kathara grid of the Earth. We will explore the real processes within and behind the experience of growth through time, so that we may finally identify the true causal element intrinsic to the degeneration and death of the body. We will come to understand the functions of the body-mind-spirit system as they are intended to operate, to identify the areas in which malfunction is occurring, so that we may remedy the causal factors to progressively restore the intended integrity of the body-mind-spirit system. We will reclaim our knowledge of our multidimensional anatomy, and rediscover the buried secrets of awakening the imprint for health. The imprint for health and the Maharic shield. Restoration of health within the body is a progressive endeavor that takes time. Portions of the body-mind-spirit system that have been malfunctioning must readjust to a new process of function that will progressively work its way up from the core kathara grid holographic template into the bioenergetic field, chakra system and DNA, to progressively reset the imprint for health within the body-mind-spirit system. The imprint for health sleeps soundly now within a portion of the multidimensional anatomy called the Maharic shield. The Maharic shield is a buried treasure of regeneration and revitalization of the human organism, as it is the key to recoding the human kathara grid back into its original imprint for health. The imprint for health is a tangible construct of energy that is located within the structure of the Maharic shield. In calling these dormant energy systems into activation within the body, one has the opportunity to restructure the causal level of malfunction and to recode the holographic template upon which malfunction manifests. Reciprocal reflection and the kathara grid. All conditions of disease within the body-mind-spirit system share a common core of causality, distortions of the kathara grid upon which manifestation is built. All symptoms affect the body, mind and spirit simultaneously. Malfunction in one aspect of being will have its reciprocal reflection in the other aspects of being, as the symptoms emanate from distortion in the kathara core, upon which all aspects of being simultaneously manifest. As we work with restoring integrity to the holographic template kathara grid, we are thus creating simultaneous restoration through reciprocal reflection within the body, the mind, and the spirit, the consciousness that makes up the substance of our multidimensional anatomy and identity. The Maharic shield and whole being healing. In activating the Maharic shield to regenerate the imprint for health, you will have change occurring within multiple levels of being. Your body will begin to reflect change as disease-causing distortions are released from the biological imprint, and a higher level of order is re-established within the atomic structure. Your mind will begin to reflect change as disease-causing distortions in your thoughts, ideas and beliefs are released from the mental body awareness. Your spirit consciousness will reflect change, as divisions between your embodied awareness and the expanded portions of your multidimensional awareness will begin to dissolve, and you will become progressively more able to embody greater states of cognition, creativity, and awareness. Kathara grid recoding through the use of the Maharic shield will set in motion the processes of whole being healing, as the imprint for health is progressively reawakened and restored within the body-mind-spirit system. Activation of the Maharic shield within the personal kathara grid will lay the foundation for progressive, lasting, and powerful restoration of the imprint for health within your body-mind-spirit system. Learning to activate the Maharic shield to restore the imprint for health requires a bit of knowledge regarding elements of the hidden anatomy of multidimensional being and application of specific energetic mechanics that will directly affect these hidden structures of energy. We will begin part 2 with a discussion on the elements of healing as they apply to developing the skills required to create the condition of Maharic shield activation, through which the imprint for health can receive its wake-up call. Awakening the personal and planetary Templar complex connection. Interwoven personal and planetary kathara grids. The core holographic templates of both the personal and the planetary morphogenetic fields are built upon a scalar standing wave kathara grid. As the morphogenetic fields of species are interwoven into the larger morphogenetic field of the planet they inhabit, there is a direct energetic connection between the kathara grids of the individuals and that of the planetary body. This connection between personal and planetary kathara grids is called the planetary biofeed interface system, or planetary biofeed interface system. For thousands of years, the planetary kathara grid has carried distortions in its natural pattern that have rendered the planetary biofeed interface system primarily inoperable. Kathara distortions in the planetary morphogenetic field blocked the human's innate ability to draw energy for regeneration and revitalization from the planetary morphogenetic field. When the human kathara grid system is working properly, there is a natural sympathetic rapport between the personal and planetary kathara grids that keeps the imprint for health within the human Maharic shield functioning properly. Due to the distortions of the planetary kathara grid, the human kathara grid developed reciprocal distortions, which created blockages between the Maharic shield imprint for health and the other functional portions of the human kathara grid. The blockages within the human kathara grid manifested as distortions within the natural function of the DNA and bodily systems, disarming many of the natural self-regenerative functions organic to human biology and rendering the human form more susceptible to disease and malfunction of the biological system. As there is a reciprocal reflection of patterns between the body, mind and spirit aspects of the human organism, due to their common causal element of the kathara grid holographic template, distortions within the DNA and physical body function also become reciprocal distortions within the mental body and its perceptual facilities, and within the spiritual body, as the kathara distortions block and distort the organic cycles through which higher dimensional aspects of consciousness would progressively embody within and expand the human form. The planetary biofeed interface system. As the morphogenetic fields of species are interwoven into the larger morphogenetic field of the planet they inhabit, there is a direct energetic connection between the kathara grids of individuals and that of the planetary body. This connection between personal and planetary kathara grids is called the planetary biofeed interface system, or planetary biofeed interface system. Return of the planetary biofeed interface system, gift of the 21th century. The secrets of utilizing the planetary biofeed interface system have been passed down within the generations of the Melchizedek human families, who brought these teachings to Earth long ago, kept hidden from public display until a day when the planetary biofeed interface system could once again become operational through evolution and clearing of the planetary kathara grid. These teachings are now being returned to the public arena because progress has been made in restoring the integrity of the planetary kathara grid system. 4. The first time in many thousands of years the potentials of healing, held within the planetary biofeed interface system, can be returned to humanity, and the planetary biofeed interface system can now be activated within the personally biology to reawaken the Maharic shield and its imprint for health within the human kathara system. Reawakening the planetary biofeed interface system and the Maharic shield within the human body allows the personal kathara grid to open into the planetary kathara grid, through which the now functional holographic template of the planetary kathara can be used to reset the original imprint of function within the personal kathara, for accelerated regeneration of the imprint for health within the human form. The Hierophant symbol code planetary biofeed interface system trigger. The first application of the planetary biofeed interface system that we will employ in kathara healing is utilizing the energies flowing through the planetary kathara grid to reawaken the Maharic shield within human anatomy. The process of opening the planetary biofeed interface system within the personal morphogenetic field involves using a specific scalar standing waveguide geomancy, a consolidated interdimensional frequency pattern that triggers release of the frequency seals, Kathara Level 2 crystal seals, on the presently dormant 10th, 11th and 12th chakras, opening the human bioenergetic field and Kathara grid to the Kathara grid, bioenergetic field, ley lines and energy vortices of the planetary morphogenetic field. The waveguide geomancy, containing the frequencies to activate the planetary biofeed interface system and the Meharich shield, can be directed by human consciousness in the form of a visually created symbol code. This symbol code is called the Hierophant. In Technique 2, the Meharich seal and the liquid light cleanse, to be explored in Part 3 of Section 1, the Hierophant symbol code will be used to bring the Meharich shield and the planetary biofeed interface system out of dormancy, in order to reset the imprint for health within the operational holographic template of the human Kathara grid. The Hierophant symbol code scalar waveguide for Kathara reprogramming. Thoughts and images, formed by the mind, represent small morphogenetic fields with minute Kathara grids that become interwoven into the larger morphogenetic field and Kathara grid of the human multidimensional anatomy. Thoughts are things in terms of the bioenergetic reality of the body and the Kathara grid. Thoughts become translations of electro-tonal digital instructions within the human bioenergetic field, and directly enhance or detract from the natural function of the electro-tonal programs of the human Kathara grid. In recognizing the power of thought as the power of creation of scalar standing wave grids, we can begin to apply that power effectively in regeneration of the Kathara holographic template, by directing needed electro-tonal instructions for awakening the Meharich shield into the embodied Kathara grid. The Hierophant symbol code, used in the form of a visualized image, sets a powerful electro-tonal program within the human Kathara grid, a program that triggers the opening between the human Kathara and the planetary biofeed interface system. The Hierophant symbol code appears in the form of a pale silver Merkaba star, a six-pointed Star of David, which represents the electro-tonal program of the 11th and 12th dimensional aspect of the universal Kathara grid. The frequency wave spectra, perceived by the human mind as pale silver, represents the electro-tonal program of the dark silver primary frequency band of the 11th dimensional wave spectra, combined with the pure white primary wave spectra of the 12th dimensional frequency bands. Using the Hierophant symbol waveguide to direct frequency and electro-tonal instructions through the Kathara grid creates a scalar standing wave pattern of 11th and 12th dimensional frequency within the personal Kathara grid, the frequencies in which the original electro-tonal instructions for the imprint for health are stored. By awakening the 11th and 12th dimensional frequencies within the human Kathara grid and bioenergetic field, all of the lower frequencies within the Kathara electro-tonal program become modulated and recoded into their organic, undistorted pattern, by the stronger wave influence at the higher 11th and 12th dimensional frequencies, which contain within themselves the organic imprint for the entire dimensionalized wave spectra of the dimensions that oscillate below them. Ease of Kathara healing techniques. Through using the Hierophant symbol code, we awaken the restorative frequency patterns within the Meharich shield and the planetary biofeed interface system, beginning the process of regenerating the organic imprint for health in the human holographic template Kathara grid. The restorative effects of using the Hierophant symbol code to activate the Meharich shield and the planetary biofeed interface system will occur upon using the Kathara mechanics provided in Technique 2, whether or not an individual understands the realities in frequency that are taking place through using this process. Therefore, the complex mechanics of activating the Meharich shield to reset the imprint for health can be reduced to simple instructions for the direction of energy. Though the theory of Kathara healing is highly detailed and complex, the techniques by which active results are achieved employ simple exercises in mental symbol code visualization and mental energy direction, coupled with the application of simple Kathara stimulating personal massage to specific corresponding body points. The techniques of Kathara healing and regeneration of Kathara grid integrity are so simple that even a young child can learn to actively employ them, to achieve the desired result of restoring the imprint for health. Morphogenetic expansion, frequency accretion, growth, age rhythms, degeneration, death, and Kathara blockage. The morphogenetic field of the human body evolves through time via the process of frequency accretion. The human morphogenetic field exists within the larger morphogenetic field of the planetary and universal dimensionalized unified field of consciousness energy. Through the inherent function of the kathara grid and the multi-layered systems of energy built upon it, progressively more frequency and corresponding wave spectra from the dimensionalized unified field are drawn into the personal morphogenetic field to create progressive expansion of the morphogenetic imprint and its resulting progressive expansion of consciousness and growth of the physical body in time. Kathara blockages and organic growth cycles. Blockages and scalar wave distortions within the kathara grid impede the natural functions of frequency accretion, and so distort the intended natural processes of consciousness expansion and growth of the body form in time. When the kathara grid is functioning properly, there are certain specific points of linear time when specific aspects of morphogenetic expansion via frequency accretion are intended to occur. The original cycles of growth and expansion inherent to the human form occurred between 4 phases. 1. Fetal integration through age 11 to 12. 2. Age 11 to 12 through age 22. 3. Age 22 through age 33. 4. Age 33 through age 44, at which time the human morphogenetic field would reach its full expansion, the DNA would reach its organic 12-strand activation, the identity would expand to hold 12 dimensions of consciousness with embodiment, and the organism would have full conscious control of manifesting and demanifesting its 15-dimensional anatomy in time. The body forms of the original human imprint, our eternal deterioration and death, were not a part of the original imprint for health within the human bio-spiritual makeup. Through understanding how the process of growth and expansion in time were intended to work, we can also understand the core reason for the manifestation of the system's malfunctions, the conditions of biological and mental deterioration that lead to the condition of biological death, a condition that is inorganic to the original genetic imprint of the human form. The first natural expansion cycle. In the original human genetic blueprint, the frequencies and dimensions of consciousness corresponding to the wave spectra of dimensions 1, 2 and 3 were intended to accrete or draw into the morphogenetic field between fetal integration and the age of 11 to 12. At the age of 11 to 12, the wave spectra of which the body was composed would take a leap in frequency, beginning the process of expanding the morphogenetic field to hold the higher frequency wave spectra of dimensions 4, 5, and 6. The expansion of the morphogenetic imprint is reflected in the DNA and chemical and hormonal balances within the body, which govern the function of the metabolic rate and the operation of molecular function. The first cycle of morphogenetic expansion into the wave spectra of dimensions 4, 5, and 6 represents the process of soul integration for the embodied identity and begins the natural process of de-densification of matter by lowering of morphogenetic vibration, raising of oscillation rate and frequency, and shortening of the wavelength of the scalar waves that compose the matter form and consciousness. These changes in intrinsic wave characteristics have their reflection within the behavior of atomic structure. As the morphogenetic field wave spectra rises in frequency, the electron spin around the atomic nucleus slows, thereby increasing the electrical nature and reducing the magnetic orientation of atomic function, transmuting the perceivable matter substance of the cells to a less dense state of being. Completion of the soul integration process marks the transmutation of carbon-based gross matter density into the carbon-silica-based semi-etheric matter density and the expansion of embodied awareness from 3 to 6 dimensions of consciousness. Completing expansion. This process of progressive morphogenetic field and consciousness expansion and resulting de-densification of biological matter continued throughout the remaining expansion cycles. Age 22 to age 33 marked the accretion of the 7th, 8th, and 9th dimensional wave spectra, the process of oversoul integration, expansion into a 9th dimensional consciousness and transmutation to a silica-based etheric matter density biology. Age 33 to 44 marked the accretion at the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional wave spectra, the process of maharic integration, expansion into a 12-dimensional consciousness and transmutation out of biology into the crystalline liquid light wave from of pre-matter substance. At this point, the identity is considered a full avatar and has complete control over manifesting and demanifesting the holographic projection of its desired body imprint in time. Growth rates and morphogenetic expansion. Original human genetic imprint. Personality integration, also known as telluric integration, starts at birth through age 12, expands the morphogenetic field through accreting the frequencies of dimensions 1 to 3 and activating DNA strand templates 1 to 3. Soul integration, also known as dyadic integration, starts at age 12 to 22, expands the morphogenetic field through accreting the frequencies of dimensions 4 to 6 and activating DNA strand templates 4 to 6. Oversoul integration, also known as telluric integration, starts at age 22 to 33, expands the morphogenetic field through accreting the frequencies of dimensions 7 to 9 and activating DNA strand templates 7 to 9. Christos avatar integration, also known as Maharic integration, starts at age 33 to 44, expands the morphogenetic field through accreting the frequencies of dimensions 10 to 12 and activating DNA strand templates 10 to 12. Allows full cellular transmutation and dimensional ascension to the 12th dimensional pre-matter liquid light hydroplasmic substance liquid silica and conscious mastery over 12 dimensions within the 15-dimensional time matrix. A Christ eternal being possessing non-polarized unity or Christ consciousness. Contemporary human genetic imprint. Personality integration, also known as telluric integration, start at birth and ends with death. Soul integration, also known as dyadic integration, currently suffering kathara blockage. Oversoul integration, also known as telluric integration, currently suffering kathara blockage. Christos avatar integration, also known as Maharic integration, currently suffering kathara blockage. Deterioration and death of the physically body occur rather than progressive frequency accretion for cellular transmutation and dimensional ascension. Distortions in the personal kathara grid and scalar shields manifest in the DNA template and block natural inflow and morphogenetic field accretion of frequency from the higher dimensional stations of identity. Conscious awareness remains polarized in duality. Consciousness and physical body is rendered finite and vulnerable to disease. The 4 natural cycles of morphogenetic field expansion. The 4 cycles of morphogenetic field expansion represent the original organic process by which the human organism was intended to evolve through time. The inorganic condition of human illness and death, the processes of biological and mental deterioration and resulting death of the biological form, which we presently view as facts of life regarding the process of human passage through linear time, are not organic conditions to the human organism. Other life forms, such as the animal kingdoms, that manifest through morphogenetic fields having less than 12 kathara centers active within their kathara grid, cannot undergo the full process of bodily transmutation into pre-matter substance and cannot fully expand their embodied awareness into 12th dimensional consciousness. For the animal kingdom, the process of evolution is also frequency accretion, but it is achieved through expanding one's body form to its full capacity, then entering the consciousness into a morphogenetic imprint with a bit higher capacity, until eventually the consciousness can accrete enough frequency to take it into the next level of matter de-densification and consciousness expansion. Death is natural to the organic animal kingdom. Humans were intended to undergo the full spectrum of morphogenetic expansion and cellular transmutation within one eternal body image, that was built upon a program of full activation of the 12 kathara centers of the kathara grid. Death is not natural for humans. Kathara grid blockage and molecular compaction, the process of biological deterioration and progressive movement toward biological death, is the direct result of unnatural blockages within the kathara grid holographic template. Blockages within the kathara grid program presently block the process of frequency accretion at the beginning of the first expansion cycle, as accretion of the 4th, 5th and 6th dimensional frequencies representing the soul integration process is blocked within the kathara grid and thus the biological DNA. The incoming frequencies of the soul level consciousness push on and crush the morphogenetic field, rather than expand the morphogenetic field into a higher level of frequency hold. When the incoming scalar wave frequencies of soul integration begin to crush the morphogenetic field, a condition called molecular compaction is created. Molecular compaction, overexposure to scalar wave spectra and its resulting fragmentation of the morphogenetic field and kathara grid is the only true cause of disease, and the core causal element of the unnatural death experience. The Meharic shield and human healing. Within the imprint of the Meharic shield of human morphogenetic structure is the dormant imprint of the 10th, 11th, and 12th dimensional electro-tonal programs that represent the organic program of the kathara grid. Through activation of the Meharic shield, the scalar standing wave template that corresponds to the pre-matter liquid light fields of dimensions 10, 11, and 12 blockages within the kathara grid holographic template that result in the genetic mutation that causes molecular compaction can be progressively realigned with the original eternal imprint for health. Though it takes time and consistent application of kathara healing technique to fully regenerate the imprint for health and eternal life within the 15-dimensional levels of human anatomy, working to heal distortions within the kathara grid through Meharic infusion, which is running the frequencies and wave spectra of the Meharic shield through the kathara grid, bioenergetic system and body, can create progressively more observable effects in creating and maintaining health and slowing the bodily deterioration process within the normal lifespan of an individual. Potentials of kathara healing. The true beauty and significance of kathara healing is that it can not only do wonders for creating and maintaining higher standards of health within the average human lifespan, but within the applications of kathara mechanics lies the promise and potential of human biological eternal life and fulfillment of spiritual actualization and evolution to mastery through progressive embodiment of and conscious mastery over our 15-dimensional anatomy and the creative process of holographic projection within the dimensionalized fields of space, time, and matter. Kathara healing holds the key to humanity reclaiming its ancient heritage of the eternal self and eternal at one-ment with Source. Levels of human anatomy, the embodied kathara. The kathara grid of the human body is the core holographic template upon which the morphogenetic scalar wave template and all other levels of identity are built. It is the control center for manifestation of the human being. Level 1 Kathara 12 Tree Grid. Level 1 Kathara Grid 12 Tree is the first level of the Kathara grid, sets the pattern for dimensionalization of consciousness through which identity can enter the time matrix for the holographic experience of manifestation. The Kathara Grid 12 Tree is the first wave spectra composite through which consciousness anchors itself into dimensionality in order to experience manifestation of form. All things within dimensional structure have the Kathara 12 tree activated within their morphogenetic pattern. The 12 tree is composed of 12 Kathara centers or Kathara spheres and 15 Kathara lines. Kathara centers. The Kathara centers are crystallizations of partiki units that hold composite electro-tonal energy signatures of each dimensional band. The electro-tonal programs of the Kathara centers hold the foundation template upon which the biological DNA will manifest. Kathara lines. The Kathara lines are sequences of partiki phasing rhythms, which is flashing on and off fission fusion sequences that transfer the dimensionalized electro-tonal programs of the Kathara centers between each center to form the core level of the scalar standing wave template upon which subsequent levels of the Kathara grid, bioenergetic system and body will build. Kathara healing in the Level 1, 12 Tree Grid. The Kathara centers and Kathara lines are used in Kathara healing to realign and awaken the original 12-dimensional imprint within the human morphogenetic field, in order to reinstate the original imprint for health and bio-spiritual mastery within the operational evolutionary blueprint for the body-mind-spirit system of the human form. Level 2 Kathara Crystal Seals Grid. The crystal seals are groups of three-dimensional partiki scalar wave composites that regulate the rate of partiki phasing to create the base structures upon which dimensionalization is formed. The flow of frequency between dimensional bands and harmonic universes, the fixed expansion and contraction fission and fusion rates of partiki, the vibration oscillation rates of partiki and the angular rotation of particle spin are all regulated by the crystal seals. Star crystal seals are positioned between the chakra centers along the central body current, and seed crystal seals are positioned between them and serve as the point of composite frequency out of which the 15 primary chakra center vortices emerge. 5-dimensionalized UVA body shields and 5 auric capsules. UVA bodies are 3-dimensional, tritonal scalar standing wave grids composed of numerous sets of crystal seals that form the electrotonal program upon which the kathara grid level 3 duratic points emerge. The UVA body grids are called crystal shields. The 5-dimensionalized UVA bodies are structured as 5 concentric spheres of energy that surround and permeate the human body and serve to hold the embodying consciousness into dimensionalized levels through which the holographic projection of experienced manifestation can occur. The UVA bodies form tissue capsules of subtle energy around each 3-dimensional harmonic level of the bioenergetic field, within which the 15-dimensional levels of the auric field are stationed. In kathara healing, restoration of the original 4th harmonic maharic shield imprint for health is used to realign and clear blockages from the lower UVA bodies and corresponding kathara centers and kathara lines, to awaken the imprint for health and spiritual actualization within the body-mind-spirit system. UVA bodies, shields and signets. UVA bodies are tritonal scalar grids that form spherical energy tissue capsules around each 3-dimensional level of the multidimensional identity. Within 15-dimensional human anatomy, there are 5-dimensionalized UVA bodies called REA UVA bodies. The REA UVA bodies form out of electrotonal programs held within the kathara centers of the level 1 kathara 12-tree grid. The 12th kathara center of the kathara 12-tree grid connects to the 12th kathara center of the universal kathara grid, just as the 1th kathara center in the personal kathara connects to the 1th kathara center in the planetary kathara grid. The 12th and 1th kathara centers, the personal kathara grid and morphogenetic field, connect to the planetary and universal morphogenetic fields. When working with the UVA bodies, we first focus upon the lower 4, as these must be functioning properly before the 5th UVA body and its connection to the universal kathara grid can be activated within the bioenergetic field. 4 of the 5 REA UVA bodies are directly connected to the crystal seals within the human body central body current on a horizontal plane. These first 4 UVA bodies correspond to each of the 12 kathara centers of the personal kathara 12-tree grid. The UVA bodies represent harmonics of manifestation. UVA bodies, signets and shields. Each UVA body emanates outward from a set of 3 kathara centers and their corresponding crystal seals. The core template of the UVA body is a triad of crystalline spheres that connect directly to the 3 kathara centers to which they correspond. This triad of crystal spheres is called a signet. The signets are the smatter, fixed, consolidated frequency points out of which the seed crystal seals that form the chakra's manliest. The signets and the smaller crystal seal formations that manifest through them create a disk of spinning horizontal wave spectra that direct the function of UVA body merger. These scalar disks are the scalar templates upon which the UVA bodies manifest and are called shields. The shields and the signets that direct them are considered to be the core of the level 2 crystal seals kathara grid. Each of the 4 UVA bodies of the first 12 dimensions forms upon a set of 3 signets. Signets. Each signet transmits a flash line, partiki phasing sequence, on a different axis. 1 vertical, 1 horizontal and 1 diagonal, forming a 3-plane projection of flash lines that form the base of the 3-dimensional holographic projection. In each set of 3 signets at least one corresponds to the central vertical kathara line, the control center of the level 1 kathara grid 12 tree. The signets and shields can therefore be used to direct the function of the kathara grid 12 tree and all built upon it, and the kathara centers can be used to trigger activation of the signets and shields within the UVA bodies. When a signet is activated, its corresponding disk or shield begins to spin. When a certain spin rate of the shield is reached, it triggers the activation of the next set of signets in the next harmonic, setting the next shield to spin. When two shields activate and reach a reciprocal spin rate, the tissue capsule separating the two corresponding ovabodies releases and the two ovabodies merge, which is the process by which higher identity integration occurs. It is also the process by which the Merkaba vehicle is activated within the bioenergetic field. When all four shields activate and spin, the body matter is able to transmute out of matter density and into pure wave form, which represents Maharic avatar integration for the identity. The Uva bodies and the shields. Each Uva body contains at its core a shield through which the Uva body functions are governed. The Nada Uva body of dimensions 1 to 3 forms on the telluric shield, its control center being the second kathara center that is composed of 2 dimensional frequencies. The Alphi Uva body of dimensions 4 to 6 forms on the Doratic shield, its control center being the Dora or archetype of the 5th dimensional frequencies. The Betchia Uva body of dimensions 7 to 9 forms on the Turic shield, its control center being the Turic or monad of the 8th dimensional frequencies. The Mahara Uva body forms on the Maharic shield, its control center being the Mahanta or avatar core of the 11th dimensional frequencies. The 5th Uva body, the Raja Uva body, forms on a set of signets that correspond to stellar points within the universal kathara grid. Its shield, the Rishik shield, rotates on a vertical plane and it comes into activation within the personal morphogenetic field only after the 4 lower shields have transmuted the body into pre-matter liquid light of the Maharic shield. In terms of healing and advancing evolution of the earthly identity, the first 4 shields are of greatest significance. Uva bodies, shields, signets and healing. In all healing applications, knowledge of the shields is of great value, for any manifest condition of disorder will have its first manifestation within the kathara grid and the shields that form upon it. The process of healing, therefore, is the process of restoring the shields to their proper order so they may activate to build the Merkaba vehicle through progressive higher identity integration. In kathara healing we begin with the Maharic shield, the shield that contains the pure form of electrotonal programs upon which the consciousness first entered matter density through the pre-matter liquid fields of the 4th harmonic dimensions 10 to 12. Through activating and progressively drawing in the highest 11th and 12th dimensional frequencies of the Maharic shield, distortions in all lower shields can be more rapidly realigned with their original pattern. When we work with the kathara centers of the level 112 tree grid, we simultaneously create change within the signets that direct the function of the shields, and so we are able to more rapidly facilitate appropriate realignment of the shields and uva bodies. The core of healing is restoring the uva bodies and the shields upon which they manifest to their original integrity of order. Shields, signets and dyadic points. Through the interaction and interplay of multi-harmonic frequency between the shields, signets and their crystal seals, kathara grid level 3 dyadic points come into manifestation to fill out the 3-plane, 3-dimensional armature of scalar waves and flash lines, upon which more partiki units will cluster and crystallize to build up the particle base for form manifestation. The dyadic points, within the body and morphogenetic field, connect directly to the shields of the uva bodies in areas where the flash lines and scalar points within the crystal seals of the shields align with and pass through each other. Flash lines from one uva body shield crossing through those in other uva bodied shields form coordinate points, or gateways of energy consciousness transference through which frequency and awareness from one uva body and identity level can cross through into other uva bodies and identity levels. The coordinate points, or regularly scheduled points of flash line intersection, form tiny vortices of energy, which keep energy and consciousness flowing throughout the multiple dimensional levels of identity and anatomy. The vortices of energy created by the coordinate points of flash line sequences are called dyadic points, and they have a counter-reflection within anti-particle manifestation called meiotic points. Dyadic and meiotic points are sets of white and black holes that circulate energy throughout the anatomy. Kathara level 3 kathara grid dyadic points. Dyadic and meiotic point. Diotic-meiotic points represent concentrated areas of energy that emerge at points where dimensionalized levels of scalar grids cross over and through each other, creating minute vortices of wave spectra that serve as frequency modulation zones, which are scalar flash cycle transition points between dimensional frequency bands. Diotic point vortices are white hole vortices that transit energy into the particle universe from their counterpart meiotic point vortices within the antiparticle universe. Through the structure of dimensionalization, each harmonic universe, and the structures contained therewithin, have within their morphogenetic fields sets of diotic and meiotic points, sets of white and black holes that regulate the flux of consciousness energy between systems. Within the biological form and morphogenetic field, diotic points are located in physical body regions where interdimensional and interharmonic horizontal and vertical kathara lines intersect to form small vortices of interdimensional or interharmonic wave spectra that serve as gateways of consciousness between dimensional time continua of harmonic time cycles. They connect physical bodies to their antiparticle counterparts and intersect with the vertical and horizontal relationships of wave spectra within the DNA, RNA, and bioenergetic field, through sets of white and black holes at the center of the biological harmonic scalar grids. Diotic points and three-dimensionality. Diotic points control the diagonal kathara lines, the sequences of Partiki phasing or flash lines that run on a diagonal between the kathara centers. Whereas the kathara level 1 kathara lines direct the vertical flash line sequences and the level 2 crystal seals control the primary horizontal flash lines and their relationships to the vertical flash lines, the diotic points further regulate the relationships of flash line sequences through the kathara grid by serving as turnstiles of energy. The diotic points intersect with the crossover points of the vertical and horizontal flash lines, adding a further level of modulation to the frequencies passing through, allowing a three-dimensional harmonic projection of flash lines projecting on three different angular planes, to build within the morphogenetic field. The diotic points add the third plane of projection to the kathara grid, beginning the formation of what will appear as a three-dimensional armature of flash points upon which particles will accrete to fill out the holographic illusion of three-dimensionality. Dimensionality. Diotic points and healing. In kathara healing, diotic points are used to open the diagonal kathara line for reprogramming. When diotic points become blocked, due to blockages within the kathara grid, which appear as gaps or missing sequences of flashes along the flash lines of Partiki phasing, energy builds up in the level 3 kathara grid, forming distortions in the natural pattern that will manifest in the body and biofield systems as disease or disharmonic condition. In later applications of kathara healing, we will learn to identify points of diotic and meiotic buildup in the body and use primary flash line sequences applied through touch points to realign the natural flash point sequences and clear the diotic blockages. Shields, signets, and the kathara grid. Ovabodies are spherical scalar wave grids that form tissue capsules between each three-dimensional harmonic of manifestation. Signets are the core points of consolidated frequency that hold the programs for the scalar grid shields upon which the ovabodies manifest. Axiom lines, auric levels, and chakras. Each signet within an ovabody shield holds the electrotonal program for one seed crystal seal and one dimensionalized flash line sequence. Each seed seal program corresponds to one dimensionalized flash line program from one level 1 kathara center. Each seed crystal seal holds intact the electrotonal program for one dimensionalized flash line projection angle, or single-axis dimensional flash line sequence. The single-axis dimensional flash line sequences controlled by each seed crystal seal are called axiom lines. There are 12 primary axiom lines that correspond to the 12 kathara centers in the personal and planetary kathara grids. There are 12 additional stellar axiom lines that correspond to the 12 kathara centers in the universal kathara GND. The axiom lines represent single-axis flash line sequences, fixed points of conscious electrified sound electrotonal units that form strands of scalar standing waves that intermesh to refine the scalar grid webbing upon which kathara grid level 3 diotic points will emerge. axiom A-B tonal lines, diotic-meiotic vortices, chakras, DNA portals, ley lines, and healing. Each of the 12 primary axiom lines has a reverse reflection within the dimensions of the antiparticle universe. The 12 primary axiom lines governing the diotic white hole vortices of the particle universe are called axiotonal lines. The corresponding reflections of the axiotonal lines in the antiparticle universe, which govern the meiotic black hole vortex reflections of the diotic points, are called axi-B-tonal lines. In kathara, healing, the integrity of the axiotonal lines is restored through realigning the electrotonal programs within the corresponding kathara centers. The 12 primary axiotonal lines set the morphogenetic imprint upon which the chakra system and foundation DNA organization of the human body will manifest, and upon which the planetary vortex portal system and primary planetary ley lines will emerge within the planetary body. Restoring the imprint for healing to the axiotonal lines and corresponding kathara centers will regenerate integrity within the DNA and chakra system of the body and will restore the organic operation of the planetary vortices portals and ley lines of the planetary morphogenetic grid. Restoring the imprint for health within the axiotonal lines simultaneously restores integrity to the corresponding diotic points and to the axi-B-tonal lines and their meiotic points. When working with kathara techniques that clear the miasmic imprint, the antiparticle blockages within the diotic points are realigned by clearing their miasmic distortions, which then re-establishes the integrity of the corresponding axiom A and B tonal lines, sending a realigned electrotonal program back through the seed seals and the level 1 kathara centers. If the programs within the kathara centers are simultaneously realigned using infusion of the frequencies of the Maharic shield, the kathara center programs, the axiom lines and the diotic points will be progressively restored to health. If the kathara centers are not simultaneously realigned, the restored axiom line programs will be overridden by the kathara centers programs until the restored programs reach critical mass through prolonged repetition. Clearing the miasmic imprint while simultaneously patterning the level 1 kathara centers and kathara lines via Maharic infusion is the fastest way to restore the imprint for health within the human body, mind, spirit system and within the natural operations of planetary biomechanics. Axiom lines, diotic points, UVA bodies, shield and auric field levels. The single-axis flash line sequences of the 12 primary axiom lines cross over and through each other to form coordinate points between the UVA body shields, through which the white hole level 3 diotic point vortices emerge. The varying angles of flash line projection within the axiom lines create separate dimensionalized bands of frequency, separate sets of flash line sequences, within the UVA body structure. As there are 3 signets and thus 3 seed seals and 3 axiom lines inherent to each UVA body shield, each UVA body becomes dimensionally compartmentalized into 3 separate yet interrelated sections, each section having inherent sets of diotic points. Each dimensionalized aspect of the UVA bodies becomes a level of the auric field within the bioenergetic system. There are 12 inner layers of the auric field, which correspond to dimensions 1 to 12 and to the 12 primary kathara centers, seed seals, and axiom lines of the first 4 UVA bodies. There are 3 outer layers of the auric field that correspond to dimensions and seed seals 13 to 15, to the first 3 kathara centers and axiom lines of the universal kathara grid and to the 5th UVA body. Seed seals, axiom lines, consolidated diotic points, chakras and auric levels. The points in the kathara grid where the single-axis axiom lines cross over and through the central vertical kathara line in the level 1 grid and the horizontal flash lines of the seed crystal seals form fixed, consolidated diotic points, larger vortices of energy composed of many smaller diotic vortices. The larger vortex points are called chakras. Each chakra vortex is formed upon the electrotonal program of its corresponding dimensional frequency band, kathara center, seed seal and axiom line, and each chakra corresponds to one auric field level, DNA strand imprint and level of consciousness. As 3 signets, seed seals and axiom lines correspond to each UVA body shield, 3 chakras regulate and correspond to each of 5 uva bodies, for a total of 15 primary chakras. Primary chakras 1 to 12 correspond to kathara centers 1 to 12 in the personal and planetary kathara grids, and primary chakras 13 to 15 correspond to the first 3 kathara centers and axiom lines of the universal kathara grid. Chakras 13 to 15 are considered universal transstellar chakras. The chakras regulate the transduction of flash line sequences from the dimensionalized unified field and dyadic vortices of the axiom lines and auric field levels into the uva body tissue capsules and rivulet channels that connect to the physical, electromagnetic, chemical and hormonal aspects of the visibly manifest form. Chakras regulate the flow of consciousness energy between the dimensionalized auric field levels of the uva bodies, keeping the various multidimensional stations of consciousness separate, in order to allow for experiential perception of holographic manifestation. Each chakra circulates its single-axis flash line sequence along the angle of projection carried within its corresponding axiom line, and this angle of flash line projection determines the angular rotation of particle spin, known as ARPs, or the axis upon which particles rotate within each dimensionalized portion of the anatomy. There is a 90-degree shift in flash line angle of projection from one chakra and dimensional band to the next, which creates a go-degree shift in angular rotation of particle spin between each dimensionalized portion of the anatomy. Between each three-dimensional uva body there is also a 45-degree reverse shift of flash line projection angle, which creates a 45-degree rather than a 90-degree forward shift of flash line projections angle between each uva body and between each set of 3 chakras, 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 9, 10 to 12, 13 to 15. The precise angles of flash line projection and ARPs between chakras create the perceivable 3-dimensional hologram. About chakras. A chakra appears within the bioenergetic field as 2 cones or spirals of multicolored energy that are linked together at the tip in the central body current through the seed crystal seal out of which the cones emerged. Chakras 2-6 extend from the seed seals outward through the body and auric field on a horizontal axis, and chakras 8 and 9 intersect with 6 and 7 at the pineal gland on 2 rotating diagonal axes running the rough the head. Chakras 1 and 7 and 10 and 14 are stacked above and below the body on a vertical axis aligned with the central body current and the central vertical kathara line. Chakras 1 and 7, 10 and 12, 11 and 13 and 14 and 15 are actually the bottom and top cones of 4 large vertical chakra spirals, but are counted as separate chakras. Chakra 15 is a roving chakra, which travels the course of the 12 primary axiom lines tar out in level 15 of the auric field. Each chakra draws in energy form and transmits energy into the dimensional unified field corresponding to the chakra number and carries as its dominant perceivable color the hue characteristic to the primary frequency band wavelength of its dimensional affiliation. Chakras and dimensional Merkaba fields. When the seed seal at the core of a chakra is released, the 2 cones of the chakra move through each other to form a dimensional Merkaba field, 2 counter-rotating spirals of electromagnetic energy that take the form of a star tetrahedron. When the seed crystal seal releases, the corresponding scalar wave paints within the uva body shield are released from dimensional phase lock. They are released from polarity by the recombining of their inherent particum particles and partika antiparticles. Through recombining particum and partika, the scalar standing wave paints undergo fusion, then a reciprocal fission and replication within the harmonic above. Through release at the seed seals, the dimensionalized auric field levels at the lower uva body align along the same angular rotation of particle spin, which transmutes them into the angle of flash line projection and partiki. Phasing rate of the dimensionalized auric field levels of the uva body from the harmonic above. Seed crystal seals are released by infusing them with the flash line sequences of the corresponding dimension from the harmonic above. Progressive release of the seed seals within the chakras creates opening and merging at the kathara lines in the level 112 tree grid, and merging of the uva bodies, shields, dyadic points, auric and identity levels and DNA strands, through which activation of the Merkaba vehicle and de-densification of matter occur. Axiom lines, rotating flash line projection and the human body. Each seed crystal seat within the signets of the UVA body shields hold the electrotonal program for a single-axis axiom line flash line projection. The flash line sequences of each axiom line are not simply stationary single-line projections of flash lines, but rather operate as rotating single-line projections. Each rotating single-axis flash line projection is synchronized with the other rotating single-axis flash line projections of axiom lines from the other seed crystal seals through the rotational synchronization of the axiom flash line sequences. The flash lines of each axiom line regularly cross through each other and through the vertical and horizontal flash line sequences from the Level 1 and Level 2 kathara grid. The points of synchronized flash line crossover form consistent points of intersection through which the Level 3 dyadic vortices and chakras manifest. Within the human body and auric field, the consistent points of flash line crossover can be charted in the form of fixed lines of energy that run through the body. The charted axiom lines within the human body represent series of regularly scheduled flash line intersection points, created through the synchronized rotation of the single-axis axiom flash line sequences. Axioma lines, axiotonal lines in the human body. The consistent points of axiom line flash line crossover that form fixed lines of energy within the body can be charted as axiom A and B line energy flows within the body. The axioma lines correspond to the body manifestation in the particle universe, the B lines to the body double in the antiparticle universe. For kathara healing applications, the lines, axiotonal lines of the particle body are used for various purposes of facilitating kathara center realignment and revitalization of the body-mind-spirit system. Within the body, the axiotonal lines can be charted as primary flow lines, conduits through which energy consciousness, in the form of scalar point flash line sequences, circulates through the morphogenetic field. The fixed flash line crossover points that form the charted axiotonal lines appear in the body as a set of 12 vertical flow lines, one running from each of 12 auric fields levels, which run through the body within the Level 2 crystal seals kathara grid. Each axiotonal line corresponds to one of the 12-dimensional frequency bands, kathara centers, seed crystal seals, chakras and DNA strand imprints. The 12 primary axiotonal lines appear to enter and leave the body through the head and feet, with conduits running through the arms, hand and out the fingertips, and through the legs, feet and out the tips of the toes. Each axiotonal line appears as a colored cord of energy, its hue determined by the wavelength characteristic to its corresponding dimensional frequency band. In charting the positions of the 12 primary axiotonal lines in the body, numbering and color are used to denote the dimensional correspondences of each axiotonal line. Axiotonal lines 11 and 12 and the Hara line axiotonal lines 11 and 12, which correspond to the 11-inch and 12 dimensions, kathara centers, sea seals and chakras, run vertically through the center of the body along the kathara grid level L central vertical kathara line, forming a twisted rope of dark silver, D11, and white, D12, energy that wraps around the central vertical kathara line flash line sequence. The central vertical kathara line, which appears as a thin silver gold flash line energy running from the 14-inch chakra, 36 above the head, through the body and into the 13 chakra at Earth's core, is imbued with frequencies from 12th, 11th and 8th dimensions, the frequencies of white, dark silver and gold. In Level 2 kathara grid, the rotating single-axis flash lines of axiotonal lines 11 and 12 spiral around the thin silver gold flash line of the central vertical kathara line, merging into a thin, vertical tri-tonal flash line of primarily gold hue that becomes the core of the central body current. In ancient Eastern healing systems, this thin gold vertical line is called the Hara line, and is often considered the foundation of the manifest form. In truth, the Level 1 kathara 12 tree grid and the signets, crystal seals and shields of kathara Level 2 are the deeper foundation upon which the Hara line manifests. The Hara level of kathara. Level 2 Crystal Seals Grid. The mechanics of the crystal seals in the Level 2 Kathara God are complex, but can be employed with relative ease through working with the energetic dynamics of the outer levels of the Level 2 Kathara Grid, the level in which the Hara line can be viewed using ninth-dimensional higher sensory perception. We refer to this level of the Level 2 Crystal Seals God as the Hara level. The Hara level is composed of the Hara line and 6 of the 15-star crystal seals of the Kathara Level 2 Crystal Seals Grid. The 6 Hara points, crystal seals, apparent from the Hara level are as follows: the 9th silver core star crystal seal, called the Hara Center. The 6th indigo, or blue-violet, star crystal seal, called the Soul Star. The 12th white star crystal seal, called the Galactic Star. The 3rd yellow star crystal seal, called the Sun Star. The 8th gold star crystal seal, called the Earth Star. The 10th blue-black star crystal seal, called the Earth Core Seal. The 6 Hara points govern and regulate the function of complexes of energy synthesization and distribution that control the operations of all primary body systems and bioenergetic field dynamics. In Kathara Healing Level 2, we will explore mechanics of the Hara level. In Level 1 Kathara Healing, we will simply become familiar with Hara level as an element of 15-dimensional human anatomy. The Hara and the Kundalini. The silvery gold energies of the Hara Center, 9th star crystal seal, are interwoven at the base of the spine with what is referred to as the Kundalini life force energies. The Kundalini energies represent the primary energy currents through which the incarnating consciousness anchors its morphogenetic field within the fetal body through the first 8 cells of conception. The Hara Center energies interweave at the base of the spine with the frequencies of the first star crystal seal, the red star seal, in the first cell. When the Hara Center seal is dormant and activated only to the 3-dimensional level, its pale silvery gold frequencies appear to be encased within a crimson-red sheath of first-dimensional energy, often making the Hara Center and Hara line appear to be red in color. As the Hara Center comes into activation, through progressive release of the 9th star crystal seal, the 8th-dimensional and silver 9th-dimensional frequencies of the Hara become the dominant hues, giving the Hara Center and Hara line its natural silvery gold color. With full activation of the Hara Center and 12th-dimensional Maharic integration, the tritone frequencies of the Hara Center and Hara line take on tricolor spectrum of pale sliver, gold and red-violet, pale magenta, as the Kundalini primary life force currents, at the base of the spine, activate within the central vertical current of the body. Full activation of the Kundalini merges the 7th-dimensional violet, 1st-dimensional red, 8th-dimensional gold and 9th-dimensional silver frequencies with the full-spectrum white sliver energies of the 12th-dimensional Maharic current. The Hara Center, like L-star crystal seals, is one of the primary regulatory elements of the natural Kundalini energies. As the Kundalini energies, at the base of the spine, are brought out of higher dimensional dormancy, through progressive activation of the star crystal seals in the Kathara Level 2 Crystal Seals Grid, the Hara Center progressively reflects these changes by expanding in size and energy processing capacities and taking on hues, wave spectra, of the higher dimensional frequencies. The Kundalini energies, at the base of the spine, are the key to physical cellular transmutation of the body. Kundalini energy currents regulate the physical body's position in space-time, keeping the physical body phase locked into the planetary time cycle in which it was conceived, following the mathematical programs set by the star crystal seals and the Kathara grid. For physical transmutation to occur, the Kundalini energies of the higher dimensions must be brought into embodied activation, setting the processes of the internal Templar complex into motion. The DNA template manifests upon the program set by the Kathara grid. As the Kathara centers and their corresponding star crystal seals, shield, Kundalini currents, cranial sacral, pineal tailbone, seals, seed crystal seals and chakras activate, dormant DNA strand template also activate, progressively altering the angular rotation of particle spin, energy processing capacities, metabolic orientation and neurological processes of the body and molecular structure. as these physical changes occur through activation of the crystal seals and energies, the Merkaba vehicle, interdimensional counterrotating electromagnetic fields in star tetrahedral form, progressively builds within the bioenergetic field, allowing the physical body release from phase lock within its home space-time vector. Activation of the Hara center represents one of the stages of this natural transmutational process. The ninth core star crystal seal, the Hara center and the D9 thalamus complex. The star and seed crystal seals of the level 2 kathara grid that hold consciousness into the dimensional phase lock set by the level L kathara centers, accrete along the central vertical kathara line and the central body current. From the Hara level, the outer portions of the level 2 kathara grid, the 12th, 9th and 6th star crystal seals, appear as areas of condensed light positioned along the vertical Hara line. The 9th star crystal seal, located about 2 foot below the navel, is known as the core star crystal seal, the point of 8th and 9th dimensional frequency of the harmonic 3/soul matrix, which is the Tauric shield that anchors the personal morphogenetic field into that of the earth and serves as the center of gravity for the adult human body. The core star seal appears from the Hara level as a 2-inch ball of gold energy encased in a thin silver